Are you speaking directly to the amendment to the election board?
Yes.
Okay. All right, go on.
Yeah. So the DA spoke at the election board's last meeting and said that his report was finished, and he held back releasing that report because it was so close to election day. I'd like the public a chance to see that report before we vote on this and see where our issues are. I think that it's a hard job, and I think 4 years is what they need to learn it and to get it right. And the 2-year overturn, I think, is just too quick. Thank you.
Thank you. Audrey Cerniak?
Audrey Cerniak of Plains Township. First, I would like to state that I'm here as a citizen and registered voter of Luzerne County. And although I'm a member of the Board of Elections and Registrations, I am not speaking for the board. I'm against the proposed amendment to the charter, which, despite assurances to the contrary, I see as nothing less than a partisan move to destroy the county's independent Board of Elections. Even if I accept the assurances of nonpartisanship, there is still the appearance of partisanship. Partisanship and the appearance of partisanship is something many members of the current and past boards of elections have gone out of their way to avoid. The current board, Bureau of Elections, and the Office of Law have all gone to great lengths to conduct elections and put in procedures that follow the election laws and codes. This amendment would throw out the institutional knowledge that we've been developing and require that everyone involved start from scratch. If the current council would like to make their mark on the home rule charter, and I can certainly see that they do, there are more positive ways to do it. For example, people who are paid by the county cannot serve on boards, authorities, or commissions. There was a suggestion made about 2 or 3 years ago in an editorial in one of the local papers that an amendment be made to the charter allowing poll workers, even though they're paid by the county, to serve on the Board of Elections. These people have great expertise in election processes and are currently committed to serving the county. Yet we bar them from serving and deny the citizens of Luzerne County their considerable experience. I ask the county to put aside this attempt to control county elections and work positively to help us all to continue to have secure and fair elections. Thank you.
Thank you. Controller Griffith?
Good evening, Council. I've spoken on this item before when it was originally introduced, as well as now when it's up for vote. Strongly urge Council to give a no vote on this ordinance. It does nothing to promote election integrity. What it does promote is control of the election board, much as Ms. Cerniak just alluded to. The board does great work. I mean, we don't agree with them all the time, and we shouldn't. That's what makes debate healthy. That's what makes government healthy. But the fact of the matter is, to change the composition of the board isn't the fix to the problem. There's other things that can be fixed besides changing the makeup of the board. Changing the 5th member to a 2-year term and everybody else a 4-year term is not a good fix to this board. And to make that 5th member appointed by this council is not promoting good government. It's just promoting bad government. The ordinance itself isn't drafted properly. It's one big long question for a whole series of issues that we're trying to correct, multiple issues with one question. The voters will not have a clue of what they're voting on if we're going to put one question out there that changes 5 different items. I don't think it's fair to do that to the voter. I don't think the question is drafted properly. I don't think the Board of Elections will even be able to draft a plain English question based on its composition currently. But more importantly, the whole Board of Elections is supposed to be independent and non-political. Yes, they're political by nature because we do appoint Democrats and we do appoint Republicans by term. But I think the ability for them to stay independent is critical, and we need to make sure that we continue with that. And I strongly urge Council to vote no on that ordinance.
Thank you. Roxanne Rembus?
My name is Roxanne Rembus. I'm from Swoyersville, Pennsylvania. This amendment takes away the power of the 4 appointed board members to interview and choose their chair from any affiliation or no affiliation. This takes away the nonpartisan nature of the Board of Elections and automatically creates a partisan board appointed entirely by the county council. As it is now, the board needs 3 of the 4 appointed members to vote yes on a chair. The amendment would result in only 3 votes needed for chair, and the chair could be all chosen within one political party. So while the amendment does technically allow for the board to elect its own chair, they are no longer allowed to elect their own outside chair as before. Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa Napersky.
Hi, I'm Lisa Napersky. I'm from Mountaintop, Pennsylvania. I'm definitely opposed to this proposal. There have clearly been issues with elections. There's no denying that, but there's no evidence anywhere that shows that this would fix or change or even address any of the specific problems that we've seen. The crafters of the county charter wisely created an independent election board. This attempt to politicize the board would clearly undermine the will of the voters who ratified the charter and a slap in the face to those who drafted the charter. It's critical and vital that we preserve the independence of our electoral system. The current system insulates the election board from the whims of a temporary council majority, and I strongly urge everyone to vote against this. Thank you.
Thank you. Karen Baranowski.
Good evening. I'm Karen Baranowski from Wilkes-Barre, and I'm not a political expert, but I strongly agree with Professor Thomas Baldino, whose guest commentary recently appeared in a Citizen's Voice opposing this charter amendment, and I oppose it as well, and hope you decide that way, being decided tonight. He is well versed in this subject due to his 50 years of studying government systems and elections, and 4 years serving on the first Luzerne County Election Board under the current charter from 2012 to 2016. And he explained how their boards have always worked with cohesion and professionalism, and the way it is presently configured is the way it should remain. If passed, you would have the authority to appoint all 5 election board members, which would be devastating, and limiting the chair's tenure to just 2 years instead of 4. All of that would effectively politicize the election board, thereby reducing the public's trust, not only in the board, but in the county's election results. And again, I'm using some of professors, I'm not a political scientist, his words. But so many problems in recent elections have been due to high staff turnover, due to high stress conditions caused by election integrity zealots, and some poor council decisions. And shortening the chair's tenure would just make things worse. I think 4 years to go through a cycle makes sense to me. In the past few years, we have seen so much politicizing of election issues, with many members fixated on non-existent election fraud, anti-democratically opposing drop boxes, mail-in ballots, and trying to appoint Stephen Urban as board chair, clearly violating our county charter. One council member even urged all of us to watch the stolen election conspiracy theory film 2000 Mules to see the real truth at an election board meeting I attended last year. So I urge all council members to abandon their quest to make things worse and focus on the real issues concerning the citizens of Luzerne County. Thank you.
Thank you. Michelle Rothenbecker.
Hi, I'm Michelle Rothenbecker from Bear Creek Township. Fair elections are the cornerstone of our democracy, and I think we can all agree that our elections in Luzerne County have been plagued by issues in recent years. The county council definitely needs to do something to address these issues, and we need you to ensure elections are adequately funded, prepared for with enough time and forethought, that the proper procedures are in place, that ballots meet state requirements, that poll workers can be recruited and retained, poll workers can be trained, that mail-in ballots are sent with enough time to be returned in the mail, and that all voters can feel confident that our votes have been counted. This charter amendment does not address any of those issues. What this charter amendment would do is undermine the independence and nonpartisan nature of the Board of Elections. It would take away the power of the Board of Elections, especially by removing some of the institutional knowledge that we have on that board right now. It would also politicize elections and give the county council undue power over our elections. I urge you to vote against placing this proposed amendment to alter the Luzerne County Board of Elections on the November ballot. Thank you.
Thank you. Those are all the slips I have for this public hearing. Does anybody else, Ms. Massaro? It's in there. It just doesn't have anything checked.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I checked voting session.
Voting, yeah, this is the public hearing. Just the public hearing.
This is on amendment though, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All
just
right.
a-
So I thought about addressing all of the ways this ballot question is illegal, but thought I'd leave that to the others instead of addressing you. And I would address you on a personal level. I will be the first to say that our elections have been a mess. I believe that the reason for this has been the high turnover in the Bureau, as well as the other reason, which is the charter and the administrative code, both which conflict state law, which comes when it comes to elections. But now you plan on turning over the election board. I'd like to start by asking you each to reflect on your time here on council and thinking back to when you were first elected and how long it took you to get your bearings and to know the ropes, so to speak. Specifically, those of you who don't hold a law degree, I think we can all say that it may not have been, that though it may not have been difficult to grasp, the basics of it, it took time. And each member of Luzerne County Board of Elections and Registration has experienced the same thing. Each of us needed time to learn and adjust, even if it were only to our schedules. Election law in itself is a beast to learn. I challenge each of you to take in some light reading tonight and try to get through just a part of Title 25. These things take time to study and learn, and we are just the average citizens. It also takes time to get to know one another and our individual personalities in order to be able to work with one another. Some of us don't even like each other, but our board has finally come to a place where, though we may not always agree, we can work together towards the goal of representing the people in having a free, fair, and legal election in a republic. To remove the entire board and replace them would cause irreparable harm, not only to our election processes, but would also destroy the people's faith in the process completely. I cannot even imagine what a board would look like if everyone was new. You are also looking at changing the term of the chair, which is a structural change and shouldn't even be contemplated. But this means that by the time the chair actually learns the ropes, even if it's learning how to run a meeting, there's a possibility of them being replaced. In my opinion, this is a political move. You may not agree with someone's viewpoints or a political standing on the board, so you are looking to replace them, knowing that you have to do it to all of the board members, which I think is despicable, which really is saying something, since I am on the same political side, on the same side of the aisle as most of you. I also feel.
Thank you, Mr. Sarr. Thank you. Any other members of the public? No. There's people on the Zoom. Yeah. All right, Claudia Glennon.
Good evening. I'm Claudia Glennon from Salem Township. I do community outreach with several different organizations and have literally talked to hundreds of Luzerne County residents directly, going door to door at local events, asking about their concerns and priorities. I have heard taxes, living wages, roads, affordable housing, schools, safe neighborhoods, public transportation, recreation, but not once the need to restructure the Board of Elections. Make no mistake, this is not an amendment for the people. This is absolutely the Luzerne County Council attempting a power grab. Mr. Wolovich does not even attempt to hide the fact that this is a partisan coup, saying, and I paraphrase, when Republicans are in control of council, they'll be in charge, and the same when Democrats are in control. The council appoints all 5 members, who then choose a chairperson. 3 will always hold sway, totally eliminating the voice of one party. The board will be partisan, and further, unlikely to ever have an independent member. I will remind Mr. Thornton and others who contend that the board is already partisan that the current chair was unanimously selected by the election board members. Regardless of party control, council must stay out of the election board, allowing them the freedom to act independently, unconstrained by the obligation to satisfy the political desires of those who appointed them. The election board members perform voluntarily, and it takes several elections to become familiar with standards, practices, and procedures, as well as thoroughly delving into policy, code, and law to which they painstakingly adhere. Reducing the chair's term and restructuring every 2 years is a formula for disaster. Proposing to do so in a presidential election year constitutes gross misconduct. Having attended almost every election board meeting over the past 3 years, as well as spending hours both attending and assisting with election adjudications, I believe I'm more qualified than any current council member to evaluate the competency and integrity of our current election board. Luzerne County Council needs to address the real issues facing our county and stop these personal political power plays which directly undermine the reasoning behind establishing our home rule charter, which among other objectives was to decentralize power, reduce cronyism, nepotism, fraud, waste, and abuse. I urge you to
Thank
vote.
you. Thank you, Ms. Lennon. Mark Rabo?
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of council. This is Mark Rabo from Hazleton speaking. I just wanted to say about this ordinance from a principled perspective and from a government experience perspective, considering I've attended state, county, municipal meetings since 2012. And I have also served on many boards in the interim between 2014 and now. So I think I have a pretty broad perspective of this, and I've studied not only our home rule charter, but every home rule charter, every county home rule charter in the state. So that being said, and I said this from the first time that there were potential ordinances introduced, I cited Supreme Court case law ruling Pilcheski versus Lackawanna County Commissioners 2014 and Rosado versus Slifko Commonwealth Court case in that same year, 2014. Both cases have said that municipal body cannot introduce ordinances that changes the structure of their home rule charters. Only a government study commission that is voted in by the electorate of that municipality can make structural changes. Therefore, in Mr. Wolovich's amendment to change the term of the chair would be considered a structural change, which would invalidate the ordinance and subject it to court challenge. So therefore, I am pleading with the council to not go through with this ordinance because it can be challenged and defeated resoundingly. And it should be because of the fact that the problem is not within the Board of Elections and Registration. The problem has been, in terms of politicization, is in the Bureau of Elections. And therefore, the Bureau needs to be addressed. The Board of Elections needs to be addressed. That's all I have, Madam Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? Mr. Wilovich?
Just real quick, again, everybody's saying this will politicize the board. If you don't remember, about 2 years ago, the Board of Elections appointed a current council member as the chair of the board. If that's not politicizing it, I don't know what else is. So either way, I'm sure we're politicizing the board, no matter what system we're using. So I'm not sure if that's a fair argument. So I'm not doing this for a political reason. I do appreciate the work that all the board members do. And if you still want to be interested, I advise you, I encourage you to reapply to be on the board. If you have the experience you say you do, and you have the internal knowledge, I think you're the perfect candidate to be on the Board of Elections. And I would be the first person to vote for it, because I've known board members over the years. I appreciate all of your hard work. And you deserve to be there if you had the institutional knowledge. The same thing for voting for a council member. If I know somebody knows what's going on in the county, knows the issues, I'm gonna support that person. And it works the same with the election. This isn't political. I'm trying to make the system work. I don't want, I can't think of another board that goes out and appoints their own board members. I don't know if any other board in this county works that way, where board members go and pick another board member. I just don't see how that works. Again, at the end of the day, I encourage you to vote no on the ballot question if it were passed. It's a yes or no question. If you agree, vote for it. If you disagree, vote against it. It's as simple as that.
Thank you. I have 2 emails from the public that wanted to be read during the public hearing. The first is Mark Schaefer, Wilkes-Barre. Hello, council. I would like my comment to be read into the record at tonight's hearing on the proposed ballot question. I'm writing to you tonight to express my opposition to the proposed amendment to restructure the Board of Elections. The entire point of the Board of Elections is to be a nonpartisan entity that is not directly controlled by elected officials. As it currently stands, having the board elect its own chair ensures that the chair is a bipartisan pick. Since there are 2 appointed members from each party to get a majority, any chair cannot be appointed with purely the votes of one party. This change will make it so that if one party has a majority on county council, they can appoint a 3-person majority with no consultation from the minority party. That may sound good to the Republican majority right now since they have a 10-to-1 majority, but think about if the council ever flips. Would you like the Democrats to be able to just appoint a majority without consulting you? The current system defends against one-party domination and protects the rights of minority parties and thus should be preserved. Thank you, Mark Schaefer. The next one is from Jay Notar Tomaso from West Wyoming. Dear members of county council, I live in West Wyoming and I'm a business owner in Wilkes-Barre for 37 years. The politicalization of the elections in Luzerne County by the current extremists running Luzerne County Council is once again taking its toll on the citizens of our county. Instead of important issues being addressed, you are once again feeding your obsession with voting rights and creating more problems instead of solving them. The proposed amendment should not be approved. This amendment will take away the independence of the Board of Election by giving the most partisan county council we have ever had direct authority to appoint all 5 members, including the chair. It will also limit the chair's term from 4 to 2 years, which will further harm the ongoing problems due to lack of institutional knowledge needed to perform the job properly. Instead of giving a voice to the citizens of Luzerne County and addressing real problems, County Council voted against the formation of a citizen commission, which would have been composed of members elected by the public to study and formulate recommended changes to the charter. The clear political bias in this amendment is glaringly apparent, drafted in secret with no input from citizens. Maintaining power, tampering with democracy, and keeping a low level of competency and fairness is not in the best interest of Luzerne County. Please vote against this amendment and instead get to work by addressing the real needs of our citizens, like fixing roads, creating jobs with livable wages, and funding schools. Any other members of the public? Any other council members? Not to a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions? Opposed? Okay, the first public hearing is adjourned. We'll move right into the next one. All right, it's 6:34. We're gonna call the next public hearing to order. We already did the pledge of allegiance in a moment of silence. We have a roll call, please.
Present.
Mr. LaScavitch.
Here.
Mr. Lombardo.
Here.
Mrs. Durbin. Here. Mr. McGinley.
Present.
Mr. Mitchell.
Here.
Perry.
Here.
Mr. Thornton.
Here.
Mr. Urban.
Here.
Mr. Lovett.
Here.
Ms. Hope.
Here.
Okay.
We now have public comment on the proposed ordinance amending the 2023 fiscal budget for Luzerne County. This is for 911. Ms. Hartman?
I'm gonna pass, just, I'll bring it for
Okay.
save time.
Okay. I don't think any of these. None of the slips have this one checked. Does anyone want to speak on this amendment? All right, if not, we have Shauna Smith on the Zoom. Shauna, if you could please just state your name and the municipality you reside in for the record, please. Shauna Smith. You're unmuted, but we can't hear you. Shauna? Any other members of the public? Council members?
I do want to say something really quick. That if you are having a public hearing, specifically a public hearing,
then you should allot more time for the people to speak on those, on that. You should not allow them, the standard 3 or 4 minute limit if it's a public hearing.
Okay, thank you.
Motion to adjourn. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions? Opposed? All right, the second public hearing is adjourned. Council, you good to just keep moving?
Keep moving.
Cool. Okay, we'll move on to the voting session. It's 6:36 PM. We will call the voting session to order. We already did the pledge of allegiance in a moment of silence. So a roll call, please.
Mr. Venus.
Present.
Mr. LaScavitch.
Here.
Mr. Lombardo.
Here.
Mr. Sherman. Here. Mr. McGinley.
Present.
Mr. Mitchell.
Here.
Mr. Perry. Mr. Martin.
Here.
Mr. Urban.
Here.
Mr. Lovett.
Here.
Ms. Moulton.
Here.
All present.
Attorney Skeen, can you announce the executive session?
Yes. Prior to this meeting, we had an executive session where council and the board of election met with our district attorney to discuss the report that he had prepared, which I understand will be released tomorrow after he speaks to a couple of people who are from the bureau. And we also had a discussion about a litigation matter concerning a possible resolution of the case. And then we also had a discussion of an IT matter that has resolved.
Thank you. Any deletions? If not, we have a motion to adopt the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions? Opposed? Agenda is adopted. We have public comment on voting session agenda items only. Ms. Hartman?
First again.
Sorry, I flipped through them in order.
That's why I sat close this time, so I didn't have to, you offered to get me a scooter last time. So Elizabeth Hartman, Hanover Township. It's about number 2, 3, and 4, which are all settlements being made tonight. One of them, I'm seeing Samuel Hyder in there, so I'm assuming that's the jail. The next one is Luzerne County, and it looks like that's MHMR side of it, or what they're, we don't have the ID department anymore, so it's MHMR. And then the last one is Allison K versus Joanne Van Swan. At her retirement hearing, she said under oath that there were no lawsuits pending for her. So I'm wondering, why is the county settling a lawsuit for her when she said at her retirement hearing, she was specifically asked if there was pending litigation? From my research, there's at least 4 that are already filed up in the Pathonetary's office involving her. But why are we settling that as an ex-employee? She just got her pension. She can afford to settle her own lawsuits. We shouldn't be. I also want to know, do we have, Mr. Skeen, do we have a pipeline of all the lawsuits that are coming down? You were talking today about another litigation matter. Do we have a pipeline of what it looks like, of what kind of lawsuits are coming at the county from down the pike? Like, I'm sure they just don't, this one was filed in 2017. So that's 6 years ago. So somewhere 6 years ago, we knew that she was suing the county. So do we have a pipeline that we can look at so that we know how much money to put away for families that she's affected, or MHMR? I know a girl that her brother was stolen and put on meds and crazy, so she's got a lawsuit pending. The jail, who knows how many suicides are going to be coming. So I'd like to see, or can we work on, the new county manager, can we work on a pipeline of what litigations we have coming so we know what we're up for? Because the insurance companies, when they see it, they go, settle this one. You know, hey, you guys settle this one. We don't want to go to court and have this aired out. Like, do we have an idea, Mr. Skeen, on what is coming down the pipeline? Thank you.
Thank you. Joanna Bryn Smith.
Good evening, Council. I'm Joanna Bryn Smith from Wyoming. This charter amendment is a solution in search of a problem. The amendment does nothing to fix the real problems. I apologize, this is obviously on the agenda item of the proposed ordinance. The amendment does nothing to fix the real problems hindering elections in Luzerne County, which are lack of funding, high election administration turnover, inability to recruit and retain poll workers and judges of elections, among many others. including loss of institutional knowledge within the Bureau and administrative leaderships. All of these issues already fall under the purview of the county council, county manager, and county administrative leadership. Election issues in Luzerne County have nothing to do with the length of an election board member's term or how board members are appointed. We obviously have a clear issue with our elections. However, this amendment is merely a distraction from any of the already mentioned real issues. Many people have spoken, and it is clear this is a partisan move to destroy the independence of the Board of Elections and does nothing to promote the integrity of our elections. Council needs to address the real issues of our government and not attempt a distraction with this, proposing this amendment. I believe it was last August when Councilman Lombardo said that we need to do better. And we do need to do better. Free and fair elections, our elections, are the pride of the world. They're the envy of the world. People all over the world watch them and celebrate them. We're the only country since our inception that has said we can do better. So let's do better. We need to get past the bitterness that is so obviously present in so many of our government meetings. We need better government, not bitter government. Elections are always of the people. Government is always by the people. And I strongly urge this council to listen to the people who have spoken at this hearing and vote no to put this proposed ordinance amendment on the ballot. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Sorrow?
See where I was here. Alyssa Pissarro, Luzerne Borough, on 11. To remove the board and replace them would cause irreparable harm, not only to our election processes, but would also destroy the people's faith in the process completely. I cannot even imagine what a board would look like if everyone was new. You are also looking at changing the term of the chair, but I've already said that. So in my opinion, this is a political move, and it is. You may not agree with someone's viewpoint of political standing on the board, and you're looking to replace them and to do it just to get a partisanship, which the board in itself is partisan. Okay, I know you all say it's nonpartisan. It is partisan. Okay, whether it's Republican or Democrat at the time, just like council, it is a partisan. That's why we're Republicans and Democrats, and we have to apply as a Republican or a Democrat. Bottom line, that it is a partisan. It is a partisan board, but to do this is just. It is. I'm on the same side of the aisle as most of you, and I see this as a partisan move. This is just a bad move. It doesn't even look good. It's just not. You want to change something, really look at the way our county charter and our administrative code break state law currently. One completely contradicts the other. And though the county charter says, oh, go ahead and if it doesn't line up, you can go ahead and follow state law, it reverts to state law. No, fix it. On January 23rd, I sent you all a letter about the charter and the way it contradicts. Not one of you wrote me back. Not one of you addressed the issue with me. Not one of you returned a phone call as to what we can fix with the election board and what we can fix. You want to know how to fix it? I got the answers. I live it with the other members of the board. We live being told, oh no, you can't vote on that. You can't vote on that. That's you have to vote in favor or not in favor. You have no idea. I don't know if you guys are watching. Those are the things you need to change, not revamping the entire board. Like, you'd lose all the experience, you'd lose everything. It's just not a good move. Not a good move.
Thank you. Controller Griffith?
I want to speak on item number 4 as well. I appreciate Ms. Hartman and her expertise on a lot of the comments that she makes as well. I certainly agree that, we just approved a huge pension for that person, for Ms. Van Swan. And I don't think it's appropriate that now we bail her out on a legal fee that she's going to be responsible for along the way as well. To Ms. Hartman's point, she stated it, and I heard the hearing as well. She stated that she was not part of any litigation yet. Here's a case where she was part of litigation. So I would urge council to consider that when they take a vote on that matter. Under item 11, it's been spoken about exhaustively. My only concern, and I addressed council with this once before, is when was the last time a member of council has attended a board of election meeting? Not very often. Yet we have the insight to say that the board needs to be changed, and the board needs to be changed from the 5th member to a 2-year term instead of a 4-year term without even attending a single meeting. Ever, not just since we've been on council, but ever. I've been to every council meeting, well, not every election board meeting, but most of them since 2012 and before. And I don't remember seeing many council members sitting in this table that have been to one of those meetings. But we have the ability now to make an ordinance to change the structure of that election board just because we want to have the control over the 5th member, which I don't think is appropriate. And, if the answer is, well, we're going to put a question on the ballot. If you don't like it, just vote no. That's great. Let's put questions on the ballot that we really want to change things. Let's not put it on there because we want to have people say, well, if you don't like it, just vote no. Yes, we all understand that that's the democratic process here. That's why some of us didn't get reelected. That's why some of us don't get elected, because people just vote no to that person. That's the democratic process. Let's put people out there that can actually fix the problem. And that's what we need to address, is not put questions on there just because. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public that wish to speak on agenda items only? Sure. Could you just state your name again and the municipality you reside in?
My name is Lisa Napersky. I'm from Fairview Township. And I was asked to read a statement from Action Together, NEPA. They did submit it, but I guess it must have fallen through the cracks. They submitted it yesterday. It's from the president of Action Together, NEPA. My name is Alicia Hoffman Mirilovich. I am the executive director of Action Together, Northeastern PA. I have lived in Fairview Township for 17 years. I urge you to vote against placing the proposed amendment to alter the Luzerne County Home Rule Charter on the November ballot. It does list a lot of the problems that currently this amendment does not address, which I won't read through all those again. The amendment would undermine the independence and nonpartisan nature of the Board of Elections, giving the County Council greater influence over election administration and allowing partisan politics to influence the Board of Elections by letting County Council directly appoint all 5 members, taking away the ability of the board to elect its chair, reducing the chair's term from 4 years to 2 years, reorganizing the board every 2 years, increasing board turnover, vacating the entire Board of Election 30 days after it's enacted, February 2024, potentially causing the appointment of a whole brand new board in a presidential year. And as many others have mentioned, causing a loss of institutional knowledge. This is another attempt by county council members to grab power and politicize elections in Luzerne County while ignoring the priorities and needs of the people of Luzerne County. For several election cycles, Action Together members and staff have regularly attended Board of Elections meetings and observed the election adjudication process. We have witnessed firsthand the dedication, professionalism, expertise demonstrated by our board chair, Denise Williams, and fellow board members. This amendment, if adopted, would remove members from the board who have more experience overseeing elections than anyone in senior leadership within the Bureau of Elections. This loss of institutional knowledge would be devastating to an elections process that's already hindered by inexperience and turnover. As I stated in my testimony before the United States House of Representatives Committee on House Administration, we all need to provide more support for our election administration in Luzerne County. We need a government in Luzerne County that prioritizes stability and professionalism in elections. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? All right, if not, Mr. Rabo? Mr. Rabo? Oh. There we go.
Madam Chair, sorry, IT just unmuted me. Mark
That's okay.
Rabel from Hazleton. Again, I just wanted to address agenda items on the settlements and the ordinance to amend the charter for the election board. I'm going to give a different angle than I gave at the public hearing because there's the settlements are involved with the jail, and I want to tie it into the proposed ordinance to amend the charter. Can you imagine, Madam Chair and members of council, if a member of council put up, let's say, a new board that would oversee the jail? And that board would also include the manager that would allow for purchases to be done by that new board instead of the manager. That would be considered a structural change, okay? And that's what this ordinance does in terms of changing the chair, because you're taking away power from the existing board members of the Board of Elections and Registration and giving it to council. So therefore, I think, and I strongly believe that this ordinance, if passed tonight, can be challenged in court and will be defeated. So therefore, I urge this council to please vote this down so that way there's no court challenges and court costs, and we can go about this another way down the and also deal with the election problems, which is as I said, resides in the Bureau, not at the Board of Elections and Registration. And also, Madam Chair, with regards to the Hazleton Public Transit, I urge council to subtract the $28,000 that would go to Carbon and Schuylkill counties for those bus routes on behalf of Can Do for those bus routes going to the industrial parks, since it should be Can Do that puts up that $28,000 and not the taxpayers of Luzerne County for going into two different counties. If Carbon and Schuylkill counties won't pony up the money, then it's incumbent upon council to subtract the $28,000 as previous councils have done in the past. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? All right, if not, do we have a motion to approve the minutes of May 23rd?
Motion to approve the minutes. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions? Opposed? Minutes are adopted. Moving on, number 1, introduction of ordinance adopting the 2024 long-range operational fiscal and capital plan for Luzerne County.
Motion.
It's automatically introduced.
Introduced by the manager.
Yes.
Just by way of
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ms. Kokomo, please.
just by way of history, I started my position on May 25th. I spoke with the members of the previous administration. The the capital plan was not completed until the 30th with the June 1st deadline. I submitted it with the understanding that there may be some amendments and some changes. I am meeting with Larry Flesh and Greg Kurtz tomorrow to go over the capital plan. And if you have any questions, I will relay them to them tomorrow, including the source of the bidding of certain projects. But we needed to make that June 1st deadline, and engineering produced the capital plan.
Thank you. Council, you have the ordinance in your packet, and then there's a additional packet as a handout separately in your pile.
Another question. It could be amended.
Yes.
Was there a second on this?
There doesn't need to be one.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
No, it doesn't need a motion or a second. We just need to have it there. It's automatic.
Okay.
Okay. Number 2, motion to adopt resolution approving the settlement of pending litigation in the matter of Tamara Roper versus Luzerne County, Mark Rakovich, and Samuel Hyder.
So moved. Liscavige. Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Venus.
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch.
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Ms. McDermott.
Yes.
Mr. McGinley.
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell.
Yes.
Mr. Perry.
Yes.
Mr. Thornton.
Yes.
Mr. Urban.
Yes.
Mr. Lovett.
Yes.
Ms. Swope.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Number 3, motion to adopt resolution approving the settlement of pending litigation in the matter of Kimberly Osterhout individually and as parent and legal guardian of Thomas Powell versus Luzerne County and Luzerne, Wyoming County Mental Health and Developmental Services.
Motion, Lovett.
Second. Liscavige.
Roll call?
Mr. LaScavitch.
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Ms. McDermott.
Yes.
Mr. McGinley.
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell.
Yes.
Mr. Perry.
Yes.
Mr. Thornton.
Yes.
Mr. Urban.
Abstain, vote in that case.
Mr. Lovett.
Yes.
Mr. Venus.
Yes.
Ms. Swope.
Yes.
10 yes, 1 abstention.
Motion passes. Number 4, motion to adopt resolution approving the settlement of pending litigation in the matter of Allison Cave versus Joanne Van Son.
Motion. Second.
Roll call?
Question.
Mhm.
I just like to come out publicly and state that I cannot support this. I've been involved as a member of the retirement board with Ms. Van Son's retirement, and I just think it's reprehensible, the amount of damage children review department has incurred. And I just cannot supporting this settlement in this lawsuit coming out against Ms. Van Son.
Thank you.
On a question,
Mhm.
please. I have asked the question, will we pursue legal actions against Ms. Van Son? And my understanding is that they're reviewing that to see if there's legal action that we can pursue. I think that would be appropriate action, pursue whatever settlement is involved here. Because of the fact that she was the person who was directly involved with litigation. So I'm hopeful that we will have a positive response that we can pursue litigation against Ms. Van Son.
Thank you. Mr. Miscavige?
I agree with Mr. Gilly, and I think it's, that's the right direction we should take. Get this over with now, pursue her and any other lawsuits that come our way. We need to address it as we go forward. That's all I like to say.
Thank you. We have a roll call?
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Ms. McDermott.
Yes.
Mr. McGinley.
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell.
Yes.
Mr. Perry.
Yes.
Mr. Thornton.
No.
Mr. Urban.
I'm gonna abstain because Ms. Cave is involved with the previous case. Yeah.
Mr. Lovett.
Yes.
Mr. Venus.
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch.
Yes.
Vote.
Yes.
Yes. 9 yes, 1 no, 1 abstention.
Motion passes. Number 5, motion to adopt ordinance amending the 2023 fiscal year budget for Luzerne County 911.
Motion.
Second thought.
Roll call?
Ms. McDermott.
Yes.
Mr. McGinley.
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell.
Yes.
Mr. Perry.
Yes.
Mr. Thornton.
Yes.
Mr. Urban.
Yes.
Mr. Lovett.
Yes.
Mr. Venus.
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch.
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Ms. Swope.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Number 6, motion to adopt resolution authorizing the county manager to execute a contract extension with WellPath for inmate medical services.
So moved. Thornton.
Second.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
If I may.
My
Mr.
question is
Lovett?
the number of months is not filled in.
We need to fill blanks in. Ms. Kokomo, did you want to speak to that?
I think that by history, it was either 3 or 6 months. We made a decision to leave it blank so that council could make that decision, whether it's 3 or 6 months. My recommendation is 6 months. It'll give us the time to review the RFP, post the RFP. My history and my recollection of the RFP when it has to do with the medical services at the prison was that there were a number of questions from potential respondents, and it took a while. If we choose another company other than WellPath to migrate the records, that will take a while as well. So my recommendation is 6 months. The RFP, Director Wilbur has drafted the RFP. I believe that it's in with Office of Law, so it should be posted shortly.
Does anybody want to make a motion for the amount of months?
I'll restate my original motion with the addition of 6 months being
Second.
served added on.
Okay. Second. Okay, roll call?
On the question.
Yes.
I requested last meeting for the RFP. So, Ms. Corcoran, am I correct in saying that it's complete as far as the prison?
Yes, and now it's in the Office of Law. To the
When
Office of Law.
do you anticipate having that ready?
By next week, there's some issues I still have to go over.
So it's going to be posted next week?
It's going to be given to purchase. I can't say how.
RFP be posted
It'll be posted next week.
next week. Thank you.
Mr. Thornton restated his motion to add the 6 months, and Mr. Lombardo needs to.
Oh, you were the second. Are you okay with that?
yeah.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Roll call on this resolution with the 6 months holder.
Mr. McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell.
Yes.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Mr. Thornton.
Yes.
Mr. Urban.
Yes.
Mr. Lovett.
Yes.
Mr. Venus.
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch.
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Ms. McDermott.
Yes.
Ms. Bo.
Yes. Number 7, motion to adopt resolution approving the collective bargaining agreement between Luzerne County and Luzerne County Court Appointed Professional Employees Association.
Motion.
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Mitchell.
Yes.
Mr. Perry.
Yes.
Mr. Thornton.
Yes.
Mr. Urban.
Yes.
Mr. Lovett.
Yes.
Mr. Venus.
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch.
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Ms. McDermott.
Yes.
Mr. McGinley.
Yes.
Ms. Bo.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Motion passes. Number 8, motions regarding booth contract. Before we can talk about it, we have to remove from the table. Is there a motion to remove from the table?
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Perry.
Yes.
Mr. Thornton.
Yes.
Mr. Urban.
Yes.
Mr. Lovett.
Yes.
Mr. Venus.
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch.
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Ms. McDermott.
Yes.
Mr. McGinley.
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell.
Yes.
Ms. Bo.
Yes.
Okay, so let's move from the table. Do you need a motion now to adopt resolution to talk about it?
I'm gonna do it.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
We're getting
Okay,
there.
no.
I'm fast. I'm not that fast. Okay, motion to adopt resolution authorizing the use of American Rescue Plan Act funds to enter into subsequent contract with Booth Management Consulting LLC for ARPA grant management services.
Motion.
We just need a second to
Second.
discuss.
I think
Motion
you
is
need
second.
more than in the motion. For 1 year, 2 years, 3 years.
All right.
Well, can we just do the motion in a second so we can talk about it and then they can revise their motion? Is that all right, guys?
Yeah, please.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion and a second, just the way it is. Ms. Kokomo, did you want to discuss that?
Yes, thank you. Over the past year, I can tell you that reading the articles in the newspaper about the ARPA funding, I was very frustrated, and I had on occasion said, I don't understand why individuals in the county don't have information, and county council doesn't have information. I started on May 25th. On May 26th, I had my first call with Robin Booth and her team. And I was told on that call that Booth Management and the administration have weekly meetings on the ARPA funding and the grants. And my belief is that there was a breakdown in communication between the administration and county council. That will change. And I have worked very closely over the last few weeks with Booth Management. And Robin Booth has been very responsive to me. And to the extent that I said to her, and she welcomed the idea that when we have our weekly meetings on Mondays, that all council members can attend. And even if council members don't attend, I intend to give you a synopsis of the outcome of those meetings. I know that Ms. Booth, who is here today, did send you the agenda. All those meetings, for that whole period of time, there were agendas. And I asked her for information on May 26th. I was given access to an enormous compilation of materials by the following Monday, over the holiday weekend. So my recommendation is to fulfill the contract with Booth for the end of the grant period. Contract will be revised. Contract we have now, neither one of us believe it's adequate to protect either of the parties, and it will be revised. And the reason why I'm making this recommendation is because there's 3 pivotal areas that are confronting us right now today on this grant. And the first one is we're still in the process of reviewing and issuing payments. Here's the system. The grantees provide the information to Booth. Booth management reviews it. They send a release to the administration. I sign off on the release, and a purchase order is generated to issue checks. And we've issued a number of checks over the last week. If we do not go forward with Booth, everything stops. Any construction stops. We won't be able to sign any MOUs or contracts. We certainly won't be able to issue any fees and monies. And even though the grant ends in 2026 and it might be out there, it's right around the corner. The second pivotal area is that we have to monitor the work that's being done. And that is extraordinarily tedious and very time consuming. And if we bid out this other for another company, I really believe that we'll be paying an extraordinary amount of money. I do have a list of the bids, the original bids, and you can see what the comparative costs are. And we have about 150 projects, and I think that we would get extremely high costs and fees. And the other pivotal area is that we have a reporting deadline. In the agenda that was distributed, we have a July 10th deadline, and that's to get information to us and to Booth so that we can generate the report that will be given to the Treasury Department. So Robin, I don't know if you would want to take the podium and elaborate on some of those issues, the monitoring, especially the monitoring and the reporting.
I'll be quick. I just want to kind of give you a roll up of where we are. There's 136 projects that have been approved, MOUs, meaning internal projects, and subrecipient. We've completed the agreements for 128. They've been done in less than 45 days, meaning the subrecipients or the internal projects have them. The county manager she should be tired because she signed probably.
I signed 11 today.
I mean, but it's dual signs. We're doing the agreements and we're 126, but now we're also doing the one-time exceptions, the request for reimbursements and the advances, all of which have to be reviewed because they have to have a justification. The request for reimbursements, we're looking at every document. I think I wish the flood protection was here because they have 400 pages. So we're reviewing those so that we can make sure they're allowable costs before you release your monies. She's also implemented a new purchase order system. So now every project will have a purchase order. So we can keep track of the obligations, the expended, all of those things. We're meeting tomorrow with Peggy and Peggy and Andy to go over that. In addition, she's processed and sent out checks. At least 46 checks are going. The checks aren't gone yet. Be patient, but she's approved them. So they're out of, they're in finance now, going through the W-9 process, the vendor information process. So the money's on the street. There was a little bit of scare about a clawback, and you all might have heard about it. With the debt relief, they talked about clawing back. the state and local fiscal recoveries. They didn't do it. They clawed back the federal monies that they took from ARPA. But the projects are going now. Their projects are active. The agreements are out. We're ready to move forward. We also had some training planned, which the county manager recommended, a training schedule, because now everybody has other questions. We've answered over 700 inquiries in 45 days for technical assistance. So now it's like we got to help them so that they understand what the rules are. And that was the only update I wanted to piggyback.
Right, and we're also meeting because we have to adjust the application for the airports.
The airport, we're strategizing. We're strategizing to see how we can make that work within the confines of the ARPA eligibility. We're also strategizing about your buckets of funding that you've identified for low income and small businesses. So I know that the county manager has already had a couple of meetings to even talk about how that can be positioned, because right now you've allocated the funds, but there's no vendor, so you haven't obligated the funds.
You'll get a report this week. There needs to be resolutions, specific resolutions as to the Pistons Chambers application. And for the low income, I did get from CEO a package of what they believe that they can do, and I will pass that on. And we need a resolution for that as well, which will be on the next voting session.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so with that, Council, Mr. McGinley?
The contract is there an out clause?
There is an out clause in the current contract, and there will be a similar out clause.
So there is an issue.
Yes.
Going forward, there is a chance for us to
Yes.
do that. And
Yes.
potentially.
Yes.
Stop the contract.
Yes.
The question I have, and I can prove this here. We talked about the first year was like $350,000, and then she said, "Oh, that's already expended." So what is our current cost? And if we vote to go forward with the contract for multiple years, do we have additional costs over and above what's been offered in that?
Well, what I have are the three offers, but Robin, you can speak to that.
So I provided you to, actually I gave it to all council members. It was detailed estimates by line item per subrecipient per agreement. And I gave what those three costs would be if you only wanted limited services versus full services. And then if you wanted to obligate it over the 5 years. I also suggested that if you obligate the funds, even in the instance, if there's a termination, you have the funds obligated. So you've met the requirement and you have access to those funds after December 31st, 2024. So I did give a detailed analysis. If you all don't have it, I can tell you what those numbers are, but I did give a
Got the analysis, and I appreciate that. But you remember the discussion here, $350,000 first year.
for 30 projects. That's actually in the resolution. It was.
You're right, that's actually, we're talking about $200,000 at one time. But anyway, like May, maybe April, you said that the 350 was expended. My problem is what happened from that point in time to the end of June this year.
Okay, so what I had in the proposal was I indicated that actually as of April 1st, I was working at risk, but I did not want to hold the county and its constituents. I wanted to be clear that we moved forward as we worked through the negotiations. So our funding ended at March 31st. I put that in the detailed analysis as well. So April 1st, I acknowledged I was working at risk while we negotiated the contract. So that's what happened between April 1st. We've continued to work. We haven't gotten paid, but we've continued to work. But that pricing is part of, your pricing reflects April 1st through the end of the period. So I started April 1st. You follow what I mean?
I follow exactly. So that means 3 months, April, May, and June. Really not getting charged.
April, it's April.
I
I think it's May.
She put that April, May, June figure inside.
Yeah, I put it in. It was actually May.
They reduced the number that originally was on our information by $125,000.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I did.
So if indeed that's the case, reduction there in the cost, And also 3 months that now are incorporated into that cost going forward.
I'm
It's a
sorry.
whole different situation than what we were looking at 3 months ago.
Okay.
And the question I have, thank you for explaining that, Ms. Booth, that there's different options. You said you different options you can pick and choose with doing more or doing less. So by voting on this tonight, what are we really voting on?
They're all in the agenda submittal by Manager Kokomo, and we would have to fill in the amount of years and the not to exceed amount. All three options list those amounts.
We would have to do that now, right?
Yeah, that's why we said those motions will just be temporary to discuss, because the motions will have to be
Okay.
to fill in the years and the not to
All right,
exceed.
I got it. Yeah, right.
Options 1 and 2 are on 23, and the third option's on page 24.
Yes,
On the
that's right.
question, on the question, if we did make an original motion, we amend the original motion, we shoot it down, we cannot change it. We should vote on an amendment to the. So if we say 3 years, you know, the majority of council says no, that no voids the whole motion, doesn't it?
No, does it, Attorney Steve?
We have to just amend the motion. Yeah.
So
Okay, so
we
we're not gonna
no
vote on the original motion in the second. We'll make,
Vote on an amendment.
anybody who wants to fill in it can make a amendment.
I like to make the amendment or fill in however the verbiage is for
Okay.
option number 3.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have it, hold on. We have a motion and a second.
Either Greg or
Greg.
or Kevin.
I don't know, do you know, who did you put seconded? Greg or Kevin? Greg. Okay, so it's for years 2, 3, and 4, so that's a 3-year contract?
Correct.
Because we're not included, okay. So it would be a 3-year contract at $783,391. That's the not to exceed. Okay, so we have a motion and a second for that amendment. Could we have a roll call on the amendment only?
Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Urban?
Yeah.
Mr. Lovett?
Yes.
Mr. Venus?
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Mr. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Ms. Moe?
Yes. Okay, amendment passes. So now are you still both okay with your first and your second?
Yes.
Okay, so we have a roll call on the entire thing with the amendment in it.
Mr. Urban?
Yes.
Mr. Lovett?
Yes.
Mr. Venus?
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Mr. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Ms. Moe?
Yes,
And
motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Booth. Number 9, motion to adopt resolution approving the sales of certain parcels of property held in repository by Elite Revenue Solutions LLC, acting as Luzerne County Tax Claim Bureau.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Okay, question. I went through that list and I agree that we need, these properties, we need to get it back on the tax roll. That's why we're trying to vote. I don't agree with the vast majority of bids at $500 for each parcel, because there's 50 some parcels here, maybe 60. And some of the parcels, there's 5 in a row, you know, the addresses are 33, 35, 37, 39, 41. One person's buying all of them from 3 different people. And they're paying $500 each, so $2,500, they get 5 parcels. I think going forward, we need to make more of the world aware of all of this land that we're virtually giving away. And I'm just saying, if people knew, and I know we say, well, we do the minimum, what we're required, we put a little tiny ad in the newspaper, which by the way, nobody reads newspapers anymore. I mean, unless you're my age, then you read the newspaper. But we need to publicly get that out there and let the whole world know that these lots are available. I think the county would recover a lot more money if we let the whole world know that these properties are available. It's kind of like the best kept secret. And I'm looking at some of these, I'm saying, wow, I would love to have, here's another one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lots right in a row, Butler Township. the other one, 5 lots in Foster Township. These are nice areas in the county,
Okay.
very nice areas. I mean, and I just wish we'd recover more money for these things, especially the ones that are right in a row like that. So I just think we need to go in a different direction when we do this.
Mr. Thornton, I'm gonna have Mrs. McDermott address that because these properties do go through, like, these are properties nobody wants.
This is Elite, so Elite's handling, this is different than the
Okay.
real estate committee. And they have gone through all the different sales, nobody wants them, but Elite does advertise them.
So where, do they do the, listing and all that kind of stuff?
Not MLS with this.
No?
No,
There is a
it's
listing on their webpage.
on Elite's
There's
website,
a
yeah.
complete listing of all the
Yeah, and then if they
properties.
took a survey, how many people here know to go to the Elite company here to get the listing? Nobody even knows that. I mean, this is not a good way. I've been in sales all my life, marketing. It's just not a good way to get.
But they've already gone through a sheriff's sale.
They already went
additional
through the sheriff's sale.
everything. And these are ones that just nobody wanted before. now they're all-
Brian, did you ever see it? Huh? Did you ever see it? Well, I looked at the maps.
Yeah, if they don't get picked up in sheriff's sale or judicial sale, you really don't want these properties.
Unless you're really looking for that specific thing to fix her up, they're not very good. I get what you're saying, we should advertise and work do the best we can. It's not very good. They went through everything, right?
And with the sheriff, there's always a big thing in the paper for the sheriff's sale and anyone's
In
welcome.
the
to come.
newspaper.
Yes, but again, that's,
It's also
or
posted.
the website, the county website.
It's also posted and,
Listen,
all this.
That's
that should be on Facebook, it should be everywhere.
Yeah, if you come to these sales, you can see hundreds of people
Yeah, those
who are
sales-
interested in different properties.
Yeah.
Also, Mr. Thornton, I'm probably your daughter's age. And when I was shopping for a house.
You're actually older
I
than
actually,
that.
a little bit.
You're younger than my son.
Yeah. No, I apologize. But when I was looking for a house, you do check the paper. I mean, that's where you look. You do look in the paper and you see it, you look for the houses. So I don't know, but it is a good
Well,
suggestion.
$500. They're all 500,
And the
500.
council voted on that. That was a couple years ago. Mr. Griffin was the one who suggested $500 for vacant property and $1,000 for something with an improvement on it. Right. And we voted on
I
that.
gotta get to some of the shares.
Come
on now.
I would like to see us,
Oh, actually, you're not.
I would like to see us
So-
raise those minimums though. In today's day and age.
We can look at it. There's recent legislation on it because like she said, it was just proposed maybe 2 years ago by Controller Griffith. So if we want to pull it, if you want to change it, work with the office of law, update it, increase them, I'll put it on work session. I don't care.
And if you're interested in going just to see the whole production of it, you're welcome to go.
Yeah, okay.
For the life of me, somebody that's so frugal with $1 that he puts such minimums on.
All right. So we have a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call?
Mr. Lovett?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Urban?
Yes.
Ms. Vogt?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Motion passes. Number 10, motion to adopt resolution transferring. There is a typo in the agenda, but not on the resolution. $1,551.51 from the election integrity grant fund to the general fund for reimbursement of wages for controller's office. Just so the public knows, it's just a comma instead of a decimal point for the 51 cents.
So not 1.5 million.
No.
I'll make the motion to transfer $1,551.51.
51 cents.
Second.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Urban?
Yes.
Mr. Lovett?
Yes.
Ms. Vogt?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Number 11, motion to adopt ordinance placing a question on November 7th, 2023 general election ballot to amend Article 8, Section 804 of Luzerne County Home Rule Charter.
So moved, Beloved. Second.
Roll call.
On the question.
Yes.
Well, I just want to state some of the issues with this. I mean, I'm not going to support this, number one. So I think a lot of the issues that transpire between the Bureau and the board, a lot of it has to deal with on the administrative side of the county. in my opinion, this is a structural change, change in term from 4 years to 2. It is a power grab, I think, by council, which I don't think, although I did what I did, and I own what I did a couple years ago. It was to bring light to bad practices here in the county. For God's sake, I mean, this manager, that the election board doesn't even have card key access any longer to the bureau. I mean, they have to go through security like normal people, and they have an ID badge here in the county. So I mean, why should we be frisking them? And they're public officials. They're sworn in just like we are. We appointed them. And I've seen, like them trying to work harmoniously. I mean, although I don't agree philosophically with Miss Denise Williams most of the time, her and I've had conversation over the phone a couple hours here and there, and was pretty productive. I've stated in the past, I think that we need a sort of like a bipartisan committee here. Partial council members, part of the board members, and part of the administration to come together to kind of hammer out all these differences of law. In my opinion, I think the office of law is the biggest firewall in this county when it comes to election issues, and allowing the board to actually follow the law in Title 25 to the T. They have inherited powers and duties under Title 25, which is state law. You go under Title 53, I'm going to rehash this again, things that you cannot change. Like Title 53 is municipalities generally speaking. There are certain provisions of law, whether we're charter, rule of government, or commissioner structure of government, or whatever, you cannot change just because we're a charter form of government. Crimes code is one of them. We can't make murder legal here in Luzerne County. Tax code, we can't put a sales tax in place here as much as we would like to sort of like offset real estate taxes. You can't do it, even though it's a charter form of government. Election law is supposed to be followed consistently across the Commonwealth, whether you're a charter form of government or not. And in this county, we don't follow the law. And I've had that argument, or this argument with the Office of Law and County Management for a couple of years now. And I do have, an ordinance proposed, which I did send off to the Office of Law that I have back, changing the admin code, because I think some of the responsibilities and roles and responsibilities that past council have put in the administrative code breaks the law, doesn't follow the law. With all due respect, the law says that they can choose their own clerk. Our admin code, I'll give you one example, says that the division head of admin services is their clerk. That's a direct conflict of law, which, my proposed ordinance will change that. I'd like to see them be even more independent because they have investigatory powers. They are a quasi judicial board by design from the state. And I've read Title 25. I'm probably immersed myself in this particular law a lot, both because I am a candidate and I'm also sitting here on council. And it's really not to meddle with what they do, but it's trying to make them better and operate better. We see the dysfunction, and with all due respect to some of the members out in public, we do have the funding. We get an election integrity grant here in this county to the tune of $1 million. So there's no lack of funding right now. They're spending, they have money that they didn't even spend yet that they need to spend by June 30th. I think the question is too long. You're not going to be able to put a 1,000-word question on the ballot that changes numerous paragraphs without a challenge. And I do agree with Controller Griffin in that respect. There are things that we do need to change in the charter, but I think that the appropriate forum would have been to pass the government study commission question like I had proposed in the past, which was shot down by this council. And that would have been the appropriate way to kind of change everything all encompassing. Now, I had option 3 on, that's my question. They could have proposed option 2, which stays in the confines of a charter form of government. My option would have given you the ability to go back to commissioner form or stay within the confines of the charter. There are some nuances there, but quite honestly, I know there's some philosophical disagreements. with all due respect too, you could technically have a stalemate where you don't have a chair. So I'm gonna go on the other side now and look at it from a different lens. If you have 4 diehard people, 2 Democrats and 2 Republicans on that particular board, you could technically never have a chair, because the 2 and 2 will never agree. There's age discrimination that's built into the charter, where anybody that's 18 years of age to 23 cannot serve on that board of elections because of the way it's laid out. There's a 5-year rule in there. So there are things that need to be changed structurally, well, administratively, but to change a term going from 4 years to 2 years is, to me, a structural change. It's also shifting the power from the Board of Elections to council. And so, I will not be supporting this for many reasons. I think it's a little premature at this point. We're finally getting to a place where people are starting to get along, people are starting to talk. I came up to the manager and said, hey, I want a 2-hour meeting with you. And this will be one of the topics. So even though you and I have disagreed in the past, I'm trying to, this is a new day, new regime, you're in a new power structure. I might be a tough person to deal with, but at the end of the day, I'm willing to sit down and negotiate and talk about this stuff. I've always extended myself to help this county, even if I had to stab myself at the behest of all of you. But right now, I can't support it the way it looks. Sorry, Greg. You and I are friends, but I think you're trying to do too much too fast without really looking at the bigger picture. I think it's just going to add to a lot of confusion on the ballot, and then it's going to go back into the Board of Elections court if it does pass, and they could throw it back to us saying that they can't word it in plain English and say, okay, council, here's the baby back, you deal with it.
Any other members of council?
I just have a couple of things. First, I do want to thank Councilman Wilovich for all the hard work that he put in on this amendment, on this charter amendment. It's definitely not easy to do that. He did a lot of research, and as somebody who, was one of the people that looked very heavily into making a couple amendments to the charter in the last couple of months, I'm really happy to see one finally having the opportunity to be on the ballot. I'm not somebody who likes to give big, long, grandiose speeches or anything like that, but I do believe in doing the right thing, whether or not it aligns with my political beliefs as I sit here in this chair. And I think that, first of all, this ballot question is not set in stone. If we vote on it tonight, it doesn't become part of the charter. It goes to the people. So you have all the power in the world to vote yes or no on it. I certainly will support it. And if you don't support it, that's completely fine. This amendment went through the Office of Law. So structurally, the office stated that there's no issue with it. And any argument against it or for it, truthfully, is purely political or personal. So, I think some of the members of the election board that came up here, even though they spoke personally, are more fearful of just losing their seat on the board rather than actually having something that functions in a positive way. That's just what I think. I think that the current board obviously is partisan. Some people have said that. Obviously, it's supposed to not be partisan, but you are partisan, just like we're partisan. There's 3 Democrats, 2 Republicans on the board. And repeatedly, 3 Democratic members of the board have chosen not to listen to the people when they come and they express their concerns. Joanna Smith just came up during public input and said, it's time for council to listen to the people. But I don't remember her speaking up at any election board meeting saying it's time for the election board to listen to the people when they didn't want drop boxes in the county.
Just don't call them out because they can't rebuttal right now.
I'm sorry, I apologize for that. Some council members here have made tough decisions over the last couple of months where there have been 6-5 votes where we have given deference to the election board and said, hey, do your job. We don't want to meddle in your power. And we've taken a lot of hits from that, from the public, from members of our own party. And members of the election board of the opposite party have not given us the same deference, and they've not given the public the same deference. I'm very disappointed in that. So I support this 100%. We don't have any recourse. We select all the members of every other board that we appoint with the exception of this one. So if we have an issue with the chair of this particular board or any other board, we can remove them if we want to. with the exception of this one. It's not consistent with anything else that we do, and I think that we just need to make this consistent.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Farman.
Yeah, I listened to a lot of the comments here tonight, all very well stated. I appreciate listening to all the public. I want to just address a couple of them. I heard a lot of people say this is just a politicization of the process. It's partisanship by council. If we vote to allow this question to go on the public ballot for the public to vote on, then it's partisan on our part to do that. I don't accept that premise. I do want to say every action by every politician, every action, state, federal, local, could be deemed politicization. It really is. Everything we vote on, it's one way or the other. So I don't see that happening here tonight if this passes. I do want to state that my biggest concern with the way the board operates now is that a chair of that board, and it could be a Republican chair 5 years from now, or a Democrat chair 10 years from now. I'm concerned because I believed this all my life, even when I was not in politics. A board chair that holds that much power and is not elected by the people is dangerous. It's dangerous to a democracy and a republic, for that matter. And I see this chair, not this particular person, the position holding way too much power. And I think it's wrong because the people didn't vote that person in. Now, the council currently does vote in the other 4 people, 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats. And I get it, they pick a chair, but I just think that chair holds too much power. I'm not saying this person in particular, although I do have my personal views on that. But I'm just looking 5 years, 10 years down the road. I think it's, let the people decide. I want to address the issue too, where, you know, someone said, if this is allowed to pass and we allow it to go on the ballot, the public will lose trust in our institution here. Well, I dismiss that also, because if this passes, it goes on to the public, and the public chooses in November to vote for it, then the majority of the public wants it. I don't see how that loses trust when they vote to have it that way. I can tell you another thing right now. I do a lot of travel around the county. I attend a lot of meetings, a lot of places, committees, restaurants. The public has already lost trust in our election board and our election bureau. And they take it out on me. It's my fault. I've been hearing that for 1.5 years that I'm here. It's my fault because I do nothing about it. Everywhere I go, they point at me, say, you do nothing about it. All that's happened in the elections is your fault. And we could stand here for an hour and try to explain the charter, and we don't have the authority. It falls on deaf ears. So I'll tell you right now, if anybody doesn't think this current board is not partisan, you're not paying attention. Mr. Lombardo being a fine example. I travel this county all the time. I hear the same thing over and over and over. They've lost trust because of the drop boxes. 67 counties in Pennsylvania. The majority of them have banned drop boxes. The Democrat-run counties, many of them, banned drop boxes, not allowed. But we got a lot of partisanship going on right here. Not going to happen here. That's not why I'm voting for this tonight. I'm voting, like I said, down the road, 5 years from now, 7 years, 10 years. I don't think any one person should hold that much power and is not beholding to the people. They're not elected. I don't see a loss of institutional knowledge. The notion that if the people pass this, the council is going to say, good, get rid of all 5 of these people. I don't buy that. I just don't buy that that's what's going to happen here. But, excuse me, it's my turn to speak. And maybe this question does lose in the court challenge. I don't know if it will. Our Office of Law reviewed it. Apparently, it was okay to put forward. And if the public ultimately decides on this, I don't know how any court
is gonna overturn the public vote if they vote. So that's my position on it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mr. Scavenge.
So I have a problem with the partisan thing too, and I agree with what Mr. Laurel and Mr. Thornton said. But I'm gonna support this for the simple fact, I want the people of Luzerne County to decide what they want for an option. And I look back to when myself and Mr. Thornton were on West Pittston Council, we were accused of being like the staunch Republicans. No, you know what we did? We hired probably the most democratic manager for our town that you could pick. And he's still there today. You know why? Because he does a great job. And we picked a gentleman by the name of Charles Buffalino for our solicitor. And you know what? We got a lot done. You know why? We had two great people spearheading us. That's right. So, and I admitted in this same room a few weeks back, and I'm glad to have her on board. And I made a mistake, and I'll admit today that I made a mistake. But you know what? I'm glad to have her aboard. So,
Mr. Park.
that's right.
Thank you, thank you.
I didn't want to call you out.
Mr. McGinley.
Now, I heard a lot of people over the podium, so you can make some statements. Number one, if people remember back in 2012, the initiation of the county council, we had like 60 days to appoint the election. 4 people, they picked the 5th. And guess what? The presidential election year. So they were able to do that. And, you know, presidential election, we all know, is a lot more people involved in the election process, a lot more voters. Something that Mr. Thornton and Mr. Scavenge mentioned, and I've heard for many years myself. You know, part of the reason I think some of these things end up with us is you read the papers, you watch the meetings, you listen to the meetings, so much bickering and commentary between the parties involved. It really is detrimental to Luzerne County to have that go on, but it has gone on. And I think as a result of that, Mr. Lovich has tried to put together something that he feels could resolve that, which I think is a positive move on his part. I don't particularly agree with the language of things in the proposal, but he's made an effort to do that. You have to acknowledge it. Because we've had a lot of other people talk about amendments, charter revisions, etc., and very little action in that part. So I commend Mr. Lovich in that regard. And I think a lot of the people, when Mr. Griffin made a comment, you know, how many council people attend meetings? I attend meetings, but I don't participate in these meetings. I listen. I think it's not my part as a council person to participate in those meetings. It's a responsibility of the election board, people who want to address that, and the administration of the election bureau. So that's my statement. I'm sorry if I brought some things up, but I really think it's important people recognize we've gone through this before. And it's something that we can accomplish. People choose to accomplish that. And as Mr. Thornton said, and Mr. Scavenge, we're not making the final decision. The public's going to vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McGinley. Mr. Bear.
Real quickly, well said. I have to say that Greg Wilhovich did a great job, everything that researched and everything he did. And it's unfortunate that he is taking the heat for everything being so political, but should I be surprised? The environment that we live in today is everything is political. And if you know Greg, he's not political. And if you know myself, I am not. So I will support this, Greg, because you put this together not being a political person. Because that's the kind of person you are. So I applaud you.
Thank you. Ms. McDermott?
I also commend Mr. Willovich for all of his hard work in trying to make this amendment and do it. And I think it's great for the people to have a choice, to leave it up to the voters. However, I think that it's a very long question. There's a lot of information in there that maybe not everyone would understand. I had tried to put an amendment forward. I know Mr. Venus did and Steve. it was suggested that we have a government study commission. I voted against the government study commission. However, maybe that's something to bring forward again, because some of the changes cannot be made without that. So at this point, I will not, I'm sorry, support this.
Okay, we have a motion in a second. We just need to fill that date in a number 2, Mr. Wilovich. It's November 7th, general election, not later than blank. That's on page 67. You made the motion. If you could just put a date, plug a date in there. Attorney Steve, you know what the deadline date is?
Deadline date to get it on the election?
Yeah. I think that's what seems like you're looking
No,
for.
that's post-election. I think that would be the.
In anticipation, okay. Copy of this ordinance with the Luzerne County Board of Elections in anticipation of the November 7th. Because that means before.
13 Tuesday, I'm sorry, it's Shannon. 13, it has to be by 13 Tuesdays prior to the election, which I believe is August 8th.
Thank you. Are you okay with that?
I'm okay.
August 8th, 2023. You made the motion, Ms. Navarro, you made the second. You okay
Yeah.
with that date? All right, can we have a roll call filling that date in, August 8th, 2023?
Mr. LaScavitch.
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Ms. McDermott.
Yes.
Mr. McGinley.
No,
This isn't just on the amendments, it's on the whole
It's
thing.
the whole thing.
Oh, wait, is that the whole thing?
Oh,
It's the,
That's the whole
I
thing.
thought it was just.
I thought
the
it was
date.
on the,
No, it's.
oh,
the
you
whole
said
thing.
on the amendment.
no, we didn't make an amendment. I said, are you okay with your
Second with the
motion and
Oh.
your second with that
Yeah.
change in it?
I'm still voting yes.
Motion
So
is for
you
what?
can,
Okay, the motion is for the entire thing with that date filled in. You want to start your roll call over?
Yeah.
We'll start over.
Mr. LaScavitch.
Yes.
The whole thing, the whole thing.
Mr. Lombardo.
yes.
Ms. McDermott.
No.
Mr. McGinley.
no,
Mr. Mitchell.
Yes.
Mr. Perry.
Yes.
Mr. Thornton.
Yes.
Mr. Urban.
No.
Mr. Wilovich.
Yes.
Mr. Venus.
Yes.
Ms. Swope.
No,
You have 4 no, 7 yes.
motion passes. Number 12, motion to adopt resolution approving Luzerne County tax homestead exclusion request for all properties approved for the exclusion rule established under PA Act 50 of 1998.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
On the question.
Sure.
I wasn't here at the last meeting, so I didn't get a chance to make a comment. I'll just briefly say that I definitely support the idea of this, but the county, we just, after this, going through this first budget that we had to go through and the subsequent budgets we're gonna have to go through, I know we 100% can't afford this right now. When we finally pay down our debt, I would love to see this come back to the table because I certainly support it then, but at this time, I just can't.
Just quick, I was not here at the meeting also, but I did listen back in. We didn't have any numbers. There wasn't a certain amount of houses that we knew would fall under this and how much money that would be. And since we did have a hard time with the budget, I agree that we just can't do it at this point, but definitely should be revisited when we get the debt paid down.
Sorry.
Just so everybody understands in the public, we're paying down an enormous debt left to us by the county commissioners. And we've only been here briefly, some of us have been here forever. Forever. And it's enormous debt that was run up back in the day. I remember 466 million, $500 million. And that's what this council struggles with every year. Every year we pay $26 million just on the debt. Now, in 7 years, maybe a little less than 7, 2030, that's done, that's paid out. There's 26 million we're paying every year that we don't have to pay anymore. I'd be all in favor, I won't be here by then, but probably not. But I'd be in favor of doing even more than this for the people. But at a minimum, do this. But right now, I think it's about $5 million that we'd have to come up with.
that's right.
In the budget. I mean, if it was 200,000, okay, to squeeze it in, but I don't know where we'd ever get $5 million. So I agree with Mr. Lombardo that I think it's a great idea and support it, but I just can't vote for it at this time.
I agree. I think it's a great idea, Steve. I like where your head was at. It's just at this point, I don't think it's a great time. Maybe down the road.
We can always table it too after I have my meeting with the manager, see where we go. I mean, but I'm gonna still put it out there anyway, I put you on the record. So. The way I run this is, I mean, you have the ability to even reduce it down to 5,000 or something. I mean, I believe in trying to give the taxpayers back even $10 or something. I mean, we talk about it, but this is creating action here. So, vote yes or no. Yeah. But, I feel it's time to give them something back. I mean, we passed union contracts that are decent, I think we could find money and tighten up the belt and probably cut back some of the money too that's not spent in the county on salaries and things like that. I think we need to look at the whole picture, and this would not start until 2024, so we have time to plan to address it.
Any other comments? Go ahead, Mr. Liscavige.
While I think the idea is good, it doesn't make much sense to me to give somebody a break and take it right back off them when we sit down to do the budget. Hey, how'd you like that 20 bucks I gave you? Too bad, can't keep it. That's exactly what this will be. So while the concept is good, if we're in a better position, we're not. We had a little scratch for dollars in the last budget, so I won't be supporting this.
We'll get there. County will get there eventually.
Sorry. Okay. Council's done commenting? You guys are good?
So, yeah.
I heard you from out there. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. We have a roll call.
Bill Lombardo.
No.
Ms. McDermott.
No.
Mr. McGinley.
No.
Mr. Mitchell.
No.
Mr. Perry.
No.
Mr. Thornton.
Not at this time.
Mr. Urban.
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich.
No.
Mr. Venus.
No.
Mr. Liscavige.
No.
Ms. Hope.
I wish, but no.
One yes.
Number 13, motion to adopt resolution committing a local match to state operating assistance for the Hazleton Public Transit.
So moved.
Second.
Roll
Madam
call?
Chair,
Oh, sure.
could I make an amendment to that motion?
Yes, you can.
I would like to amend it to be 180,415 and have Luzerne and Carbon counties match the other 28,000. I think if they can put in 14,000 each to help with running the buses down there, there's something radically wrong.
Okay, so the amendment is to change the amount to 180,415. Do you have a second?
I'll second it.
On the question, did we have any conversations with them at all about whether they can do that? If they have? No?
We
Yes?
did.
No, we
We
spoke
did,
to him when he
they
was
did.
here.
They've had conversations and they don't,
They just don't, they refuse.
they don't
to-
put it in.
So I think if we just don't fund that 28 grand, they'll have no choice but to help kick in for their end of it. I don't think.
Actually,
we'll
I
ask-
believe we did this last year and they did not kick it in. They were just short. I'm playing devil's advocate. I'm just telling you what happened.
Then maybe they have to consider kicking out the service there. I mean, it's not fair, I don't think, for this whole county to put in 100% for that match. And then they just said, we're refusing. But I looked at the ridership numbers, those routes had a fair amount of people. So they're enjoying that service, but yet don't want to give anything toward it. Kind of not fair.
I agree. I told you,
We are
this is the one
taking
I
on-
said it's Groundhog Day. We go over this all the
Remember
time.
when we did this, that was a motion to pass, I think it was on 20,000. Hazleton City had to put that money in, because the counties did not. And we have talked to the counties over the years, written letters, talked individually, with certain county commissioners, et cetera. And they just don't come forward with it. And you're right, it's a small number, $28,000, $14,000 each maybe. It was more like 12 or 18 one way. But you then put the people in Hazleton in a situation where they don't have the public transportation. They go to certain areas. The city now has to add that to their budget, which means those citizens who are part of Hazleton City now have a expense in their budget that they haven't had. So it's a very difficult decision. And I agree that, the other two counties really should be partners with us, but they have not come forward. And this has been the situation since the inception of Hazleton Transit and the fact that the county has provided them.
Gotcha. 14 or 15,000 per county. I can't imagine if the shoe was on the other foot. And Luzerne County was a very small recipient of bus service from another county. And they asked for 14 or 15,000. think of what we vote on here tonight, and every time we come. $15,000 to a county that is getting some service. And for them to unilaterally say no is extremely unfair. And I think the amendment deserves due attention here because we're still giving Hazleton 180,000, which is a substantial amount of money. But I just think it's extremely wrong and unfair for these other counties. Well, what if we said $1,000? Will they still say no? I mean, it's a matter of principle now. For a county, that's a very small amount of money. I think it's wrong.
Oh, look, Mr. Urban had his hand up.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, and then I'll get you.
I mean, and here's an example of $208,415 of county money going to a city. This is for a city department. It's not a county department, it's a city department. It's funding part of their city's operation. We don't fund 75 other municipalities, you know, in this way. You know, this is $208,000 toward that 5 million that you guys just shot down. I mean, if this is a smaller county, I thought, do we, you know, force them to entertain some talks, serious talks with LCTA? You know, I mean, I don't think this county's big enough for 2 transportation systems. I think, you know, we need to have that dialogue in the future with them. Also, I mean, I'd like to see in future proposals too, that an action from their city body must come to us requesting that money. Okay, resolution of some sort coming from their city council requesting this money from the county, not just the director from the transportation authority coming up here and popping a letter in our lap and saying, hey, give us the money.
And we said that last year, and they knew that, and yet they turned around again and did it the same way this year.
Sure. You know, I mean, we have an operation to run just like they do. The city is out of Act 47 status at this point, so they're no longer distressed either. So I think, you know, they can come up with $28,000 at this point.
Mr. Barry.
To address the last part there, Brian, you said, yes, I think Mr. Sharp was supposed to come with a resolution, and he forgot. He forgot about it. Because in the past 10 years, 15 years, it was never requested. So give him credit there. And he should be here tonight, David, meeting down here tonight. Getting back to that $28,000, I don't think it's 28 anymore. I think it's a little less than 28. Seriously, you think that Hazleton should pay that money if they don't? No, it's a transportation business. Why should it come out of Hazleton's coffers? Where it's county. People are coming because we provide transportation. We just can't cut that off. And if you think about it, and get a little research on it, I don't think there's any county that pays another county for transportation. Why? Because it's reciprocal. They go into each county. We go into Lackawanna, Lackawanna comes in ours. But Schuylkill does not come up to Luzerne. Carbon does not come up to Luzerne. So I cannot support giving Hazleton $20,000 less than the match. And it coming out of their coffers. That doesn't make any sense to me at all. It's not their fault. Maybe we should have some more action with the representative. The state senator has their offices in Hazleton. Maybe they can reach out and convince them to pay now because they never paid before. And again, Steve, I'm not against reviewing LCTA and Hazleton coming together, but the problem still exists. That $20-some thousand is going to change it. We're one authority. It's still going to be there. So you can't penalize Hazleton. It's not their fault. These people need to come in. They come in for jobs. It's not Can-Do's fault. They're coming in to go to work. In fact, I don't know where they're going. They're going to the doctor's appointment. I don't think that's fair at all. It happened before, one time on council. I thought that was a terrible decision.
I agree it's not fair to Hazleton, but I do think, and I could draft it myself and bring it to the next work session. I think we send a letter to these other counties and say that, you know, our funding is dwindling. Like we're asking you to give a small percent, even if they don't want to give the full 14,000, anything they can give, 5 or 10, to offset the cost, because we've been doing this for them for years.
And I think they should get it all.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and we should put more pressure on them from the state level. Like, come on.
Madam Chair, just remind everybody, we are administer this amendment passes to give them 180,000. Now, if they need 28,000, go to your 15,000 residents, probably more than that. You get $2 a piece in taxes. So you raise their taxes $2 to get to 28,000. Who's gonna balk at a $2 tax increase? Why would
And Hazleton, right, we talk about them like they're not part of the county, they live here.
Yeah.
This
We're
is-
not talking about cutting them, out. We're giving them their money. My problem is those two counties that want service but don't want to give 10 cents. And the way I think you correct that is you just cut service to those two counties. We're not Uber for every other county that doesn't want to have a bus service. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but those are our residents of Luzerne County who need the transportation to those counties, so to just cut it like that, I think they need,
Those people need that.
they just need to give us their share, those counties need to pay their share.
Yeah, because they're working in those counties.
Right.
They're paying taxes in those counties, whatever, they're spending money, lunches, whatever they do with those counties. So those counties benefit from Hazleton's workers going there.
Yeah, so they should pay their
They're
portion.
still part of the county.
Yeah, that's what yeah.
Big parts of the county.
All right, we have a motion and a second for the amendment to change it to 180,415. Can we have a roll call on just the amendment to cut the funding, amendment to reduce funding?
Ms. McDermott?
No.
Mr. McGinley?
No.
Mr. Mitchell?
No.
Mr. Perry?
No.
Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Urban?
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich?
No.
Mr. Venus?
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
I support a lot of the comments that were made, but I also support the residents of Hazleton City completely, so I vote no on this.
Ms. Pope?
No.
4 yes, 7.
Amendment fails, so we have a motion on the resolution the way that it is.
If I could add, I'd like to make an amendment that we put in the motion that we're going to send a letter to each county. So
I like
we
that.
do
Second.
And send letters to each county asking them for support.
We have a motion from Wilovich, and I think Mr. Lombardo beat him to the second, sorry. So, all right, so we have a new amendment. Motion on the amendment only with the stipulation that we send a letter.
To each county.
To each county, asking them their match, moving forward.
Mr. McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Urban?
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich?
Yes.
Mr. Venus?
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Ms. Pope?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Amendment passes, so motion on the whole thing with the amendment.
Like to actually add another amendment to it, a motion to actually add that a resolution for future years is required to ask for additional funding
Okay.
Resolution from the city.
from the city.
From
From the
Hazleton
City of
City.
Hazleton.
Second.
And we have a motion from Mr. Urban, a second from Mr. Venus. Roll call on this amendment, just this one.
Mr. Mitchell?
Ask a question.
Yeah.
Is this, what's your opinion on that return scheme?
I don't know that we could put a resolution that's gonna be binding on them. We can tell them next time, we can send them a letter, we have a separate resolution maybe, but we're gonna be binding them to a resolution in here to give us a resolution from the city of Hazleton the next time they ask.
You can do it.
We can pass whatever.
Can't
We
force
pass
another
whatever-
elected
pass
body to
whatever-
pass a resolution.
Right, but then.
If they're requesting funding, we could.
Right, we're picking on just the city of Hazleton. So if we pass something that was an internal rule, that every jurisdiction that's seeking to get funds from council have to vote on it to do matching funds or some kind of fund. That municipality has to provide us a resolution.
We should probably.
Typically, they do, even with ARPA money.
Yeah, make a separate resolution for that in the future, any organization asking us for money
I'd be fine with that as a resolution on
as its own, so that way it
Yeah,
requires.
separately than. than this. If
Okay.
we can maybe look into
And
that
we
in the
can draft
future. Yeah. I'd be fine with
Well,
that.
that would be
I'll
just a change.
He
I'll
pulls
put
it.
another resolution together separate then, I mean, because this is ridiculous, but we'll do it anyway, make it all encompassing.
All right, so we'll pull it. So now,
You're
wait,
withdrawing?
Yeah, I'm gonna withdraw for now.
You withdraw your second?
Yes.
Just do a motion.
What's that?
You don't need a resolution. You do a motion.
That's all right.
okay. We're way off topic. So we have a motion to adopt the resolution with the one amendment that Mr. Wilovich made to send the letter. Okay, so the whole thing together. The whole resolution. We're gonna roll call vote on that.
Mr. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Mr. Thornton,
Yes.
Mr. Urban,
Yes.
Mr. Beloved.
Yes.
Mr. Venus,
Yes, I want Hazleton again, so.
Mr. LaScavitch,
Yes, with the understanding, I realize Hazleton is in Luzerne County. I'm not that stupid. This is totally targeted at Schuylkill and Carbon counties for the last time. Thank you.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Ms. McDermott,
Yes.
Mr. McGinley,
Yes.
Ms. Vol,
Yes.
unanimous.
Motion passes. Number 14, motion to adopt resolution awarding American Rescue Plan Act grant money to Dallas Area Municipal Authority.
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion?
Question.
Yep.
I know one of the things that we had talked about with authorities is to possibly not raise the fees. To at least give a discount. I think that was one thing that we asked the flood authority, correct?
All the authorities that have fees for the people pay. It's not just the flood.
So did we get anything?
I think there's 8 different authorities that have fees for people they serve.
So to possibly not raise, hopefully, I mean, a discount would be great. I don't know if they could do that, but maybe to not raise the fee. So did anybody get an answer on that at all?
You pass the motion, you send that letter.
I think she wants feedback. Do we get any feedback from the organization?
We didn't send a letter yet because we needed to know what projects we're going to still go through because we reduced the amounts. So I don't have a final list to send to you yet. As soon as we do, then they will all go out.
Thank you.
And then if this passes, this will automatically be included because I think our resolution said all authorities that charge a fee. Our letter. Yeah, okay. Anything else? Roll call?
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Mr. Thornton,
Yes.
Mr. Urban,
Yes.
Mr. Beloved.
Yes.
Mr. Venus.
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch,
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
McDermott,
Yes.
Mr. McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell.
Yes.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Motion passes. We now have public comment. I'll check my slips here. Ms. Hartman? Yeah, yeah, you're first in the
I need to
rotation.
play the lottery. I need to go to the casino after here. Elizabeth Hartman, Hanover Township. So if we didn't have to settle as many lawsuits as we do, maybe we'd have money for Steve Urban's homestead funding, but we're spending our money settling lawsuits for people that were not elected, but were appointed by a human resource manager here as the head of children and youth, or as the head of MHMR, or as the director, because they all feed down. MHMR is under this person, and children and youth is under this person, and MR is under this, aging is under this person. So if we didn't have to worry about what this person up here was doing, and the people that were put in and their tentacles and how they spread through this county, because there are many tentacles that spread, as we all should be aware, then we'd have more money to give back to the taxpayers. That's my first thought. Number two, the whole election thing. I just think I thought by bringing back Ms. Crocomo that we were going to move ahead, and as a county. This Sunday, we went on a train ride that got on in Pittston and went up to Carbon County. It was beautiful. Coming back, we came back to an empty lot in Pittston. Everybody jumped in their cars and went home. We all spent our money in Carbon County. The train sold out till September. These people are coming back. What are we doing to take advantage of the money that we're looking for here? What are we going to put at the train station? Are we gonna put trolleys that we could take them into Pittston? Give Pittston some business? Are we gonna look into buses that we're gonna take them into Wilkes-Barre? Something so that they don't have to go to an empty train lot and spend all their money in Carbon County. We went out for the day, 5 of us probably spent $500 up in Carbon County, just walking in little shops, what we paid for the train, like you get on in Pittston, you get on in Mountaintop, or you get in Whitehaven, nothing anywhere near any of them to bring any money for the people or residents of this county. When are we going to be proactive and do things that are going to help our county and help our senior citizens and their taxes? I'm not a senior citizen. I got my mother's house for taking care of her. I can't afford the taxes on the friggin' house, okay? Like, so waiting 7 years, like Mr. Thornton said, 7 years, I won't have the home in 7 years because I can't afford to do it. Yeah.
I do want to mention to that one point. I was proactive in speaking with Mayor Lombardo 2 weeks ago. And we're trying to, he's talking to state legislators too, to try to continue that train journey past that train station, Pittston. It goes right through downtown Pittston there at the bottom of the hill. And have maybe the people, Jim Thorpe, come here. And we are talking about that. It's in the discussions now. And have them come to Pittston City maybe for the second Friday event that they have every month, also the Tomato Festival. So those discussions they're going on right now, trying to get it reciprocal the other way.
Thank you. Ms. Fasaro?
Liz Fusaro, Luzerne Borough. You're right. Their trust in elections has been ruined. It has been. The public's trust in the election process here in Luzerne County has been ruined, and now you're going to put, and it was of no fault of the board, okay? Analyze that. But you're gonna put a question in front of them that says, hey, dissolve the board after election debacles and problems that were not our fault. That was not our problem. There were failures within the Bureau. There were failures all around, but you are going to cause more problems by what you've just done. The other thing is the comment stating that we are worried about our positions. May I remind you, we work 8 to 12-hour days during elections for free. For free. And we're very hard workers. And we don't complain about it. We work. We do our due diligence. We count every vote. We're hardcore. And the only time, I show of hands, if you don't want to, you don't have to, obviously, but who's ever been to an adjudication recently?
Not this election, no.
It would have been nice to have you guys see how we work together and how we adjudicate and how we talk to one another before making this type of a decision. But see how cohesive the board is right now. I mean, 2 of you, and 1 isn't on the council, have been to an adjudication meeting, and you just made this decision tonight. Really? When's the last time anybody visited a board meeting? Oh, I remember, drop boxes. It's the only time, because it was a controversial matter, so everybody showed up. But other than that, nobody bothers to come to see what type of business we do on a daily basis on that board of elections. But yeah, you can make a unilateral decision to have the people decide who are just going to see an election, a question after their disappointments in the election process, which was not our fault, but they're going to see that on the ballot. And of course they're going to vote for yes. Yeah, get rid of them. Out with the old, in with the new. And now it's going to cause a whole lot of damage. It's going to cause a lot of damage. I'm really disappointed.
Again, I encourage all board members to reapply for this.
Thank you. Mr. Griffith?
On the question on the repository property, yes, and I appreciate the fact that the $500 fee. The issue that was brought up time and time again on the real estate committee is They buy that property. We don't get that money. That goes to Elite. The county doesn't get a dime of that money. That goes right to Elite. For those $500 properties that we just talked about, that's all going to Elite, every dime of it. So the county realizes nothing in the general fund for any of that property. The other issue is there's no guarantees they're going to do anything with that property when they buy it. They're going to get a piece of property for $500, which we didn't, try and sell for more money. And I get the fact that they've been through all the processes, but we need to do better. If we can get more money, it'd be way better. The $500 is a minimum. That doesn't mean that's what we should take. If it's a property, we could get more for. And there should be some kind of mechanism that says they have to do something with the property so we can get some real estate value out of it. Because otherwise they're paying taxes on $500 on all those properties, each person's. That's nothing in taxes that we're getting for a piece of property. Clearly, we're getting nothing now, but on $500, it's not even worth discussing how much money you're going to get out of that. So it's something to consider for the real estate committee as they move forward on that. And the issue on the election ballot question, I find it really interesting that a couple of months ago, Steve Urban brought an ordinance to his council to put a charter amendment on the ballot to have a study commission put in to address problems with this charter. Everybody's comment here was, we don't want to do that. What if the people vote for it and they change council from 11 to 7? What if they change the charter and they go to commissioner form? Oh my God, the sky is falling. We can't trust the people for that. But now all of a sudden we can trust the people. All of a sudden, let's put the question on the ballot. It's up to the people. Let them decide if they want to change the election board. How hypocritical can we be? When it comes time to change the council structure from 11 to 7, because we may lose jobs, oh, we can't put that on the ballot. My God, we can't do that. But let's change the makeup of the board. That's perfectly fine. Let's put that question on the ballot because that doesn't affect our positions. What affects our positions, we won't give the people the opportunity to change that because you know what? If you put a study commission on the ballot, I guarantee you the council will go from 11 to 7 really, really quick. And a lot of charter issues will be addressed, even this one, by the study commission because they'll take testimony and fix the problems. But that would be the right way to do business in the county and trust the people like you say you want to do. Trust the people. Put the question on the ballot as a study commission. Let them get together and fix the charter. There's too many fatal flaws that are not addressed in this charter that need to be addressed. And start trusting the people like you say you will, and maybe we'll move this county forward.
I'd like to respond to that too real quick. I would rather address one issue at a time instead of the whole charter because they may try to fix 10 things and I don't agree with 4. And I might want to vote no.
Good. Let the people trust the people. Let them change to 10.
Trust the people.
Trust the people.
Let's make it a
Yeah,
statement.
yeah.
Right, I am.
Guys, no back and forth, no back and forth. Okay. Any other members of the public? Sure.
Gene Walsh from Rest Township. Mr. Lombardo, I find it ironic that you said that people were afraid of losing their position on the board when you voted no on a government study commission for the county. Were you afraid about the same thing?
Absolutely not. I'd be the first person to give up this seat. That's what
Okay.
I meant by lowering this.
Well, there's the door. You can walk out anytime you want. So I just think it's just very ironic how this can be left up to the people. But when we had 75 people here asking for a government study commission, you voted no on it. So I just wanted to make that known. Second thing, I was just thinking about the transportation thing. I don't know if alternating years might be an option that you can talk to the other counties about, where it's a shared responsibility, maybe every 3rd year or something to throw out there. And then the last thing is Main Road Sweet Valley, Mr. McGinley, you had mentioned that we were approved for $1.8 million for paving work. A couple of questions on that paving work. Where can I find the scope?
Mr. Kurtz and Mr. Plus are right there.
Oh, great.
And they are the people who would be involved in that.
I will talk to them afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Sure. I know you spoke earlier. If you could just say again.
Yeah.
State your
I'm
name.
Karen Baranowski from Wilkes-Barre. And first, when I was up last time, I really wanted to express my appreciation to County Manager Crocomo for your perseverance and your love for the people of Luzerne County for coming back. And so many people are thrilled that you haven't heard from, but I'm one of them. And the other thing, when you put items on a ballot, that's an underhanded way to govern, Because people, they vote for people and they don't necessarily read the questions. And like you said, I'm sorry, your name again was? Like Alyssa said, there have been problems with the election. They're going to say, oh my goodness, we better change the election. And, you know, it's just an underhanded, there was a better way of doing this rather than putting it on the ballot. Because a lot of times people don't even read the ballot. They don't pay much attention. They don't, and it's worded confusing. And like I said, with Alyssa just saying about the election issues. So I wish you'd find a different way of doing that in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? Sure, Mr. Grantine.
Joe Grantee, Plains Township. The American Rescue Plan, one of the meetings I sat in, there was supposed to be $5 million put aside for residents that, you know, it might help out. Is that money still available?
It is. It was actually addressed at the end of Ms. Booth's presentation that they're strategizing how to use that, and they're working on it now with
What I
Manager
heard
Copeland.
then was low income and small businesses, and that's not what I heard at the meeting.
Those are two separate allocations. One is for small businesses and one is for low-income residents.
Is the
I
money
forget.
separate though, 5 million?
Yeah,
for-
Technically,
One,
yeah.
one
It's two
set is
separate
for
allocations.
the chambers, and the other we were looking at maybe CEO.
Because I remember there was two separate conversations about chamber money and about
they're separate.
residential money,
They're
but
separate.
it sounded like it was
No,
meshed
they're
together.
separate.
Okay, and is there any update on what might be happening with that as far as plans?
I met with the representatives of each of the chambers. We have to pass a resolution adopting the application of the Kingston Chamber. That will be on the voting session next week, or the next meeting, I hope. And they will formulate an application process, and it will be publicized. So the first thing we have to do is pass the resolution, which we will do, and then the chambers will take over.
And that's small business side
The
of it.
small business.
What
side.
about the residential
The
side?
residential side, myself, and I believe the chief county solicitor, we met with the executive director of CEO. They have a plan. I will forward it to council. We will need a resolution adopting that as well. That hopefully will be on the voting session at the next meeting. And then CEO will be in charge of that money and oversee how it's distributed.
All right, thank you.
Any other members of the public? Joanna Princeton.
Joanna Bryn Smith, Wyoming Borough. One thing I missed in my first statement was the issue, the largest issue with this ordinance and this question on the ballot is that it gives the appearance of impropriety and the appearance of meddling in an independent quasi-judicial board. The mere appearance of impropriety is a problem. And it's the reason that the public always has an issue believing that the council is completely transparent. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have two members of the public on the Zoom. Mark Rabo.
Madam Chair, this is Mark Rabo, proudly of Hazleton City, who will address the question of the Hazleton Public Transit as I've done since, I'd say 2013 that I've been at this issue. And make no mistake, Madam Chair, yourself and the other members of council who voted for the funding for Carbon and Schuylkill counties did not do it for the residents of Hazleton City. You did it for Can Do Corporation, okay? And the members of Can Do Corporation, okay, and you have two members of the board who are sitting in that council chamber right now. One is Councilman Perry and the other one is the county manager, and that was because of the bylaws for Can Do Corporation. That's number one. Number two, I would suggest that council ask the Can Do Corporation for the 28,000, since they get money from the state whenever they want to ask money from the state. And you know who you could ask? You could send a letter on up to the third floor. I believe a county judge whose father-in-law sits as the chairman of the Can Do Corporation Board. So maybe those two things, and also sending a letter to State Senator Argel, who represents Southern Luzerne County, Carbon County, and Schuylkill County, would be able to get the funding for you, as well as those state representatives from the corresponding counties. So just wanted to put that out there. And Madam Chair, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention about the Community Development and Redevelopment Authority issues. I hope to get together with council and the county manager as far as getting the Blighted Property Committee restarted. I believe the vice chairman campaigned on that. It's just myself and Councilman Wilovich who sits on the Blighted Property Committee, and I would encourage people to apply for the Blighted Property Committee since there's such a concern about infrastructure and blighted properties. I would suggest that they apply through the ABC committee to be on that Blighted Property Committee, and let's get it restarted since the other counties have their Blighted Property Committees active and running. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And if that was a comment at me, I don't believe he's on a can-do board, but that's, I mean, really unrelated. Okay, next, a very concerned resident. Just state your name and the municipality you reside in, please.
We're using a headset. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Yeah, my name is Joseph McKay from Laughlin Borough. I want to bring up short-term rentals and how the Luzerne County Zoning Board is handling them. I didn't realize this is such a problem in Luzerne County until you go to the Verbo website. That's Victor Romeo Bravo Oscar.com. They're littered all over Luzerne County, short-term rentals. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court ruled that these are not single-family homes if they operate as like a hotel. My municipality has 2 operating in their jurisdiction. I was at my municipal meeting tonight, and my solicitor is going to be working with the Luzerne County Zoning Board. I guess there's like 15 municipalities that rely on Luzerne County Zoning Board for zoning authority. But we need police action on these short-term rentals such as Airbnb and Verbo, because they're operating. I don't know how many are operating without permits, but this seems to be a big issue. The 2 in my municipality do not have permits, but they're still operating. And I guess it takes an act of Congress and just to get a cease and desist order. So I'd like to have the county expedite the process of policing these short-term rentals. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? Hearing none, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Motion. Is it a second, okay?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions? Opposed? Meeting's adjourned. It's 8:30. We'll start at 8:40.
Yeah.
The recording has stopped.
Turn your mic.
I know.
Matt's coming. Matt's with us. Johnny, I don't have to go to work tomorrow. So next Wednesday, I'll have time to move some stuff around. Well, you could eat almost eats all the crap. Yeah, candy's back there. His wife yells at him. John, let's go.
The dam one was 500,000.
500,000.
That passed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's so much happening.
Yeah, 500,000. They have a project that's 950,000. Let's do it.
All right. Is everybody back? All right, it's 8:40 p.m. I'd like to call the work session to order. Turn your mics on, everybody, please.
We're on.
Thank you. All right, we're at the Pledge of Allegiance, moment of silence. Roll call, Ms. Lawrence.
This meeting is being recorded.
Mr. Liscavige.
Here.
Mr. Lombardo.
Here.
Ms. McDermott. Here. Mr. McGinley.
Present.
Mr. Mitchell.
Here.
Mr. Perry.
Yep.
Ms. Vogt. Mr. Thornton.
Here.
Mr. Urban.
Here.
Mr. Wilovich.
Here.
10 of 11.
All right, thank you. Any additions or deletions from the work session agenda?
Motion to adopt the agenda.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Agenda is adopted. Division reports?
Yes, good evening, council. It's a privilege to present my first division report. I had a very good meeting today with the division heads, and we're going to move forward as a team. Just some highlights from the report. I want to highlight GIS mapping. You can see they know how to collaborate with the other departments. They work with the engineering department on GIS mapping deliverables and data management improvements. They also work with staff at the county planning department to update the GIS mapping, and then they worked with some of data requests from various other county departments and outside organizations. I also want to direct the council's attention to planning and zoning and the transportation. They received $69,568 in reimbursement from PennDOT from the department's transportation related work performed through July and September. They also received $79,662.39 in reimbursement from October to December. Planning and zoning is on top of this and receiving these funds. I'm pleased to report, and Director Swets is in the audience, that the audit is looking positive and that we will have it all completed by the end of the month. Kudos to Brian Swets and his department. One thing that's not in the division report is what happened, the event that happened at 911 over the weekend on Sunday. And I want to commend Fred Rosenkrantz and the staff of 911. I met with them. They are extraordinary individuals who keep calm in emergencies, and they did in that emergency as well. I'd like to thank the Hanover Police Department for their quick response, and kudos to the Sheriff's Department who jumped in and had sheriffs stationed at 911. Sheriff in the back of the room was there. He took the first shift. And I just want to commend that to departments, and it just shows how when we work together, Luzerne County government can really, really shine. I've met with Greg Kurtz and Fred Rosenkrantz and Brian Shumsky, the sheriff, and we will be making some adjustments to the safety and security at 911. But right now, it seems like the staff is doing well. We're offering them opportunities to speak to someone to work through with the trauma that they endured.
Thank you, Ms. Corporal. Any questions? All right, now we're going to move to number 2, discussion regarding the resolution authorizing the county manager to execute a renewal contract with Thomson Reuters for Westlaw legal research software. Is there somebody here to?
Well,
Mr.
it's,
Skeen?
I'm going to pass the baton to the chief county solicitor.
Go ahead.
Yes, there's, our contract is up for renewal. There's 2 main players in legal research, that's Westlaw and LexisNexis. Westlaw gives us a better price. It's a 3-year contract with a locked-in additional percentage for every year, as opposed to we do it 1 year, then the next year we're stuck with whatever the rate turns out to be. So this contract covers all the attorneys in the office. You have to have a license for each attorney, and this will cover us for the next 3 years.
Harry, you said it's cheaper than Lexis?
Yeah.
It's better than Lexis, in my opinion, so it's the right way to do it.
Any other questions from council? All right, moving on to number 3, discussion regarding resolution authorizing the county manager to execute a contract amendment / extension with GEO Reentry Services.
Director Wilbur?
Yes. Evening, council. Wilbur, Warden, Luzerne County Corrections. This is a contract that is ongoing. It's been ongoing for quite some time. So what we have before us now is that basically a contract that was supposed to be executed on December 31st, 2023. So this isn't these 2 amendments. There's 2 different types of services GEO provides. They provide the reentry services for those that are court appointed to go to the reentry or the day reporting center. And then they also provide our drug and alcohol program in the facility, both the main facility and the minimal offender. So both of these contracts are in concert together. Right now, the reentry program over at GEO averages about 47 participants per month right now. And I believe it.
Director, when you say reentry, it's for inmates who are reentering the population.
Yes. At the day reporting center. That's where they're monitored, they're drug tested, they attend classes. So it's something that, again, once the court appoints or says part of your adjudication process is go to the day reporting center. And then once they fulfill all the requirements, they can graduate. They just had a graduation a few weeks ago, and there were 90 participants that graduated the program. So I believe in there also included was their 2022 outcome report as well. And so the idea is this is something that's been ongoing partnership for quite some time, and we just like to continue it because both are crucial. Process of the reentering, and it's a mechanism to help them do that. It's not necessarily just sending them out the door, and then also the drug and alcohol program, as we know, with the substance use disorder and everything that we're dealing with. Any kind of education / cognitive program is a good thing to help these inmates.
That reentry program, that transition back out to society, how long does that usually take?
So with GEO, it can take, it depends. With their program, usually, I want to say right off the top of my head, I can't remember the number because it varies. based on how much programming that they have to do. But it can take a few months, but they can also be, and again, I'm not a subject matter on geo, but they can be basically stepped back if they're not accomplishing what they need to accomplish. They're still under, for the most part, they're still under some kind of court jurisdiction. At times, sometimes they do pass their minimum and still continue on with the services that the day reporting center offers.
So they have to go there every day?
They do. Most do, but they kind of, again, they graduate at some point to once a week or maybe, that type. Okay. And then some just report there solely for drug tests.
Okay, I know any of that.
Do we pay per inmate?
So if you look at the amendment, yes, what they have is a scale, and I believe that's in amendment number 7 there. And the pricing scale goes from a client count of 0 to 25 all the way up to 126 to 150. So depending on the population that's taking, advantage of those services. And like I said, overall, this last year, I want to say the average is about 45, 47. I get a daily report, and so I can try to keep up with that, but it's about 45, 47. So each month right now, because what it is it's a daily amount per inmate times the month. And so over the last year, what we're looking at is we're expending right around anywhere between 65,000, 55,000, like even in May it was 63,000, 1680. And that's based on the population of the inmates or those that are going to the day reporting center.
Borrow.
Go ahead.
Couple things. Number one, because of the day reporting center, that's a major savings for the county. Because otherwise they'd be inmates in our prison, which would cost us meals and health, whatever else was along. The other question I have on Attorney Skeen, maybe the title to the resolution only talks about reentry services. I think it's very clear that they also do drug and alcohol services. So I think probably the title should be edited to make sure that's clear as far as the resolution. Please.
You got it.
Thank you.
I have a question, under Amendment 6, but under the recitals, so it says, parties agree to the pricing for 1 year and may be renewed for 2 one-year terms at the option of Luzerne County starting January 1st, 2021 and continue through December 31st, 2022. Is that right? Would that have been, or should those dates be different?
So this is amendment number 6. So what it seems like they did is they continue just to add amendments. And so then this amendment number 6 brings us, it should have been to December 31st, 2022, but it was never acted upon. So it's one of the things that I'm trying to correct.
So we'd have to reword this amendment.
Well, we don't, you're saying, what are we doing in the meantime?
So they've still continued their services in good faith because of the long relationship that the county has had with GEO.
And they're getting paid.
Yes, they are, yes, sir. They are getting paid. They're getting, it's in our line item, budget item, everything is accounted for.
Do they want it amended? Is there a new amendment that brings up to December 2023?
No, what it is this is the contract. They're still operating now. In this contract here gets us through 2025. That's what was presented.
Oh, I think it's the fourth whereas.
Okay.
Right, it is. Correct.
That was the original contract, is that?
Yes, that's what it seems has happened, like I said. Because it's a sole source. There's really not anybody else that's doing this here in our area. And I mean,
there are other people who do it, but it's not local.
Correct.
Any other questions from council? All right, thank you, Mr. Wilbur.
Thank you.
Number 4, discussion regarding resolution requesting a multimodal transportation fund grant from the Pennsylvania Commonwealth Financing Authority.
Larry Flesh and Greg Kurtz, do you want to speak to that at all?
are asking for permission to submit for a multimodal grant for Hanover Road that bike lanes and resurface. The road was picked for several reasons. One, it is pretty flat for the most part, not hilly, there's not a lot of cliffs or drop-offs on the road. There is a state park at the one end, which makes it attractive to the bike lanes. And also that once we're done, most likely it'll need to turn it over to Butler Township.
This money, the 2.75 million, you said is coming out of the CFA, right? Is this part of the loan or is this separate?
No, it's separate. It's separate. It's two multi-level grants a year. PennDOT does one and DCD does another one. This is what we're applying for. It's nothing to do with.
Okay, so it doesn't have to do with the other
Just-
pot, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Just want to make sure.
No match is required, Mr. Flesh? Okay.
Any other questions?
Larry, are we guaranteed this money? Are you requesting it? We're gonna get it?
No, this is just a request to apply for the application.
Just put an application in.
Yes. Just, past couple years, we actually submitted for Ransom Road twice and got rejected. It really didn't have a anchor facility like a school or a state park or something else. So we're trying a different route and this is what we're doing.
All right. Anything else? All right, number 5, discussion regarding resolution. Oh, sorry.
Don't go too
Yeah, I was
far,
gonna say,
Larry.
Mr. Flesh, do you want to just stay up here? Because the next one is
I think you're on for the next.
more
one.
than likely you're, oh, okay, all right. Well, there you go. Tag team. Discussion regarding resolution authorizing an application to the United States Department of Transportation for the Safe Streets and Roads for All grant program.
Good evening, Council. Matt Jones, Director of Planning and Zoning. I'm going to tag team this with Larry. I'll say all of the words and he's going to pay all the bills.
Nice.
We do that with you?
We're asking council to consider at your next meeting granting us permission to apply for a grant with the U.S. Department of Transportation to pursue the development of a safety action plan for county roads and roads throughout the county, not just county owned, but others as well. This would be monies under the Bipartisan Infrastructure Act, Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. We've discovered that this is a program under bill that we are eligible to apply for and go for. The idea is that there would be a $250 project to hire a consultant, issue an RFP, hire the consultant, get them under contract to help us develop the safety action plan. $200,000 of that pot would be coming from the federal grant. We would put forward a 20% match equivalent to $50,000. Larry tells me that in his budget, he has that money through liquid fuels revenues that he could put out through his contractual services budget to help us pay the consultant that piece of the pie. The feds would pay the rest of the bill. Why is this worth our while? This $200,000 would be coming out of a $1 billion pot of federal funds under bill that we anticipate will be provided annually over the foreseeable future for the next couple to several years. And once a county puts in place their road safety action plan with details about troublesome roads in the county where we have experienced and seen fatalities and serious injuries, and that plan outlines methods for reducing and mitigating those problems, then we are eligible to pursue implementation funding for those projects to realize them and make them happen by becoming eligible to apply for the rest of the money that is in that $5 billion annual pot of federal money. So we feel like this is a good investment. We're bringing this idea to council, asking you for permission to pursue this.
The grants manager or the grants officer inside the manager's office has been collaborating with operational services and engineering and planning and zoning to put this forward. We came to find that Lackawanna County happened to, they got a jump on this and they applied for this grant last year for money to fund their road safety study, and they were awarded that money and they have begun putting together their study. After putting some more thought into this, we realized that US DOT likely would not award this money until roughly October or through December of 2023. So this is really a project, considering that there would be an RFP process, hiring a consultant, getting them under contract. We're ramping this up and getting it ready for a one-year contract period of performance to develop the study, likely through calendar year 2024. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them, but that is the proposal we're putting to you, and we'll hope you'll consider it at your voting session to approve this.
Any questions?
Do you have any roads in mind for this?
PennDOT has roadway injury and fatality data that we can glean from them. And I would imagine that those intersections and roadways would be our initial focus. But we will take any input from the public. There will be a public outreach process. Council and the public at large will be invited to, when we undertake the actual study, to provide us ideas of troublesome places to focus on, and try to study and working with our partners ways to mitigate the safety risks at those locations.
Anybody else? All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Jones.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ben.
Discussion regarding resolution depositing $260,845 into the reserve fund.
This is, I've asked for this to be on the work session.
Go ahead, Mr. McGill.
This is money that we had received as a dividend coming back from CCAP compensation, workers' comp. And we've had this situation in the past, and we've done that. We've taken the money and put it in reserve, so we have a little bit better reserve situation, and also then is the council's power to decide on how that could be used. Mr. Venus probably remembers, I said to him over the course of the year, hopefully we can keep adding to the reserve. This is one of the opportunities that we would have. This has not occurred for the last couple of years during COVID, so it hasn't been on our agenda for a couple of years, but it's back on the agenda because they sent us the information saying, well, this would be our dividend. And I believe at this point in time, it would be wise for us to put a reserve, because we need a reserve in case there's any emergencies. So
You're a man of your word, Tim.
Just
Go ahead. Mr. Thorne.
observation, maybe question. So CCAP realized about $3 million in total dividends. We're just one county, we get 260,000 of that. Not that I'm complaining, it's great, but that's, let me just do it right. That's probably about 1/11th, 1/11th of the whole pot. There's 67 counties. Why would we,
every county is different. I mean, a lot of rural counties don't have a lot of.
We have such a large portion of that.
Well, it all depends on your employees number, et cetera. They're all figures that go into that formula that they use.
Okay, I'm not complaining. Nope.
Mr. Liscavige.
Remember, we're paying big premiums there too.
Yes, I'm complaining.
Go ahead.
I just like to thank Mr. Jones for the work he did, because I saw an email this week with the Copart where they agreed to put some trees and things of that nature around the property. So that's great news, and I think it'll make those residents happy in that area.
I was going to bring that up, actually. Did anyone reach out to anyone in Duryea to let them know? I just thought of that.
I did.
Did you to let them?
Yeah,
Just so that they're aware of it, what we received.
Yeah, I sent that notification that I think Ms. Rockamore sent us, that we agreed they're gonna put a barrier thing up there. I sent that to one of the residents living right there on that fence.
Did anybody from Duryea, because wasn't there a Duryea council member or something?
We could just forward the email right to them.
Incinerate.
I forwarded it to Borough Manager Carolyn Santee.
Okay, all right, thank you. Yeah, thank you for that.
I
That's
hope the
good.
company will follow up on their plans.
I'm sure the residents will make sure that they do.
They tell me they plant the trees in the fall when the trees stand less of a chance of dying from summer drought. Fall's a better time to plant trees for survival. I hope that November doesn't come and go and we see nothing happen. I feel good about it.
You're making us nervous. We feel like we're gonna drive by
Yeah, I know, we
and see the Charlie Brown Christmas tree there come on. Kevin,
And we did have a discussion, Matt and Greg and I, about perhaps amending our planning and zoning regulations to make sure that areas next to residential areas that are industrial, commercial have buffers. Correct?
Yes.
More to come.
Yeah, more to come.
So that'll prevent something like this from
I
happening.
mean, again.
Excellent. Anything else from members of council? Public input?
Real quick.
Go ahead, Ms. Hartman.
You have a slip. Yeah, 4 for 0, right?
4 for 4.
So I just want to say that hopefully with the resolution that passed tonight, we will not hear about elections in this room till after November. And we can concentrate on nice projects like making sure that the roads are taken care of and the kids are taken care of. And we do things for the community and we build up our community and move forward in a positive direction. That's what we're hoping for as a county, the people out here. That's what we're hoping for, that everybody gets on the same page and let's move forward making this a better county to live in. That's all I want to say. And thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hartman. Anybody else in the audience? Anybody on the Zoom? Mr. McCabe?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure if you guys took my discussion very seriously about the short-term rent. Oh yeah, cough it up. I'm trying to talk. The short-term rentals, we don't want to be a county in residential areas where hotels are operating through Airbnbs and Verbos. I mean, you really go on the Verbo website, Luzerne County is littered with short-term rentals. This is a serious issue for our zoning board and our Luzerne County. And this really has to be discussed. I didn't realize it's such an issue until I actually went on the Verbo website. And the whole Luzerne County is just littered with short-term rental advertisements. So this really has to be a serious discussion in this county. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. McCabe. Mr. Jones, I think, would like to speak on that briefly.
Council and Mr. McCabe, thank you for your comment. We did get tipped off in the last 2 weeks about 2 short-term rentals possibly being operated illegally in Laughlin Borough. This coming on the heels of 2 short-term rentals that we had caught wind of in Cunningham Township that had been operating illegally. We pursued enforcement against both of the VRBOs in Cunningham Township and were successful in having them discontinued. One of those cases was appealed to the board and the board rejected that appeal. In the last 2 weeks, my staff investigated the tip-offs in Laughlin and we have sent notices of violation to those 2 property owners after discovering that those were indeed violations. I have lost 4 zoning staffers over the last 3 years. Enforcement is a function of staffing, and that's all I'll say about that tonight. But we are beating the bushes enforcing the county zoning law to the extent that we have the manpower to do that as vigorously as we can. We were in Warrior Run Borough today to shut down a illegal tire sales business running out of a residential neighborhood. And we won our case in front of the magistrate. So we're doing the best we can and we appreciate your tip-offs and we are already on those 2 cases. Thank you, sir.
Just for my own education, what qualifies as a short-term rental?
So rental of a property for less than the minimum of 30 days. If you have a 30-day lease, that's considered legal under our ordinance. Anything less than that, it's like you're doing it as a vacation rental. Oftentimes it's for a weekend. Folks will come in from out of state. Maybe they'll stay at Lily Lake, enjoy a Pennsylvania summer, maybe have a beer party, cause a lot of noise. And others consider that a single-family residential neighborhood where that short-term rental of that property is considered illegal and incompatible with the neighboring use.
That's the county zoning law.
The county zoning law applies to 20 communities. So in some zones, it's allowed, in others, it isn't. It isn't permissible by right. And so to operate that kind of business, you have to apply for special permission to the board.
3 months, 5 months, that's not short term.
No, that's legal. You can rent in our county, you can rent any property for a month or longer.
Okay.
It's not considered short term, at least under our county law.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. There's one more. I apologize. Mr. Rabo?
Mr. Chair, thank you, Mark Rabo, Hazleton. Just to piggyback off of the comment for short-term rentals, I just wanted council to be aware, I warned council about this phenomenon about 4 or 5 years ago because it was hurting, it was affecting Hazleton with these illegal conversions of single-family homes into boarding houses and rooming houses. So this phenomenon is actually going to be more of a widespread issue moving forward in our county, just so that council is aware. And also, I just want to make a clarification on what I said, because it might have been lost in the Zoom. I was referring to the judge who was a state rep in Hazleton, her father-in-law, not the chair's father-in-law, just to make that clarification known. The judge who was a state representative, who's now a county judge, her father-in-law is the chairman of CANDO. So just wanted to make that clear for everyone's edification. And I hope, Mr. Chair, that you push forward with the renewal and the restarting of the Blighted Property Committee moving forward. I would like to see some blighted properties taken care of. That's all I have, and have a good night.
Thank you, Mr. Rabo. If anybody's interested in applying for that committee, please feel free. I do have one email that wasn't read during the regular meeting, so I just want to read it really quick. There is an attachment with it. I'm not going to read it because it's several pages long, but it'll be attached in the minutes. So this is from Joseph Mangan from Hanover Township. Yep. Oh, yeah.
Mr. Skeen, are we allowed to bring this up in a public meeting?
It was sent to the public comment. I mean,
I know that, but
yeah.
We met with him based on.
Okay. Is this, if you don't want me to read it, I mean, you can.
Why not read it? I mean, at this
I
point,
think
just read it.
I think Mr. Skeen should look at it before we move forward in public comment, because.
It's illegal.
I mean, it's regarding a children and youth issue.
Oh, okay.
We can not read it for now and just have it for another time if possible. If you think it's acceptable, then we'll read it at a later meeting or post it publicly. Okay, all right, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, all right. Apologies. Motion to adjourn?
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, meeting's adjourned. Thank you.